our dear Manmohan Singh ji was actually a puppet. See, our political system is extraordinarily corrupt in most places. Extraordinarily corrupt. Pakistan was printing Indian currency. We were made up only to study these black fellows like zoo animals. Arey, dekho ye kala, see the way these fellows dance.
The following is a conversation with Dr. Shiv Sastry. Dr. Sastry is a doctor. He is the author of a book on the Aryan Invasion myth, a book on Pakistan as well, and he is a commentator on defense and geopolitical matters. Please subscribe and enjoy the conversation. Dr. Shiv Sastry, welcome to the Abhijit Chavda podcast. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, thanks, Abhijit. It's so nice to see you again. Gosh,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've always seen you in casual clothes when I meet you at some lit fest or something.
Yeah, typically, yes.
Yeah, and you're looking as good as ever.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, sir, you are an author, you are a doctor, you are a geopolitical analyst. You've been, following defense developments for many decades. I believe some of the earliest images of fighter planes, etc., on the internet came from your scanner.
Yeah, earliest images, earliest videos of Indian Air Force actually came from me. It was on GeoCities in those days.
GeoCities those days.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Right. So you've been, you are an expert in many things. So we will talk about the Aryan Invasion myth definitely.
Absolutely. Favorite of mine.
Yes, indeed. But let's start with Ukraine. Yeah, there's a lot happening in Ukraine. How do you read the situation as of today, July 6th, 2023? Who do you think is winning? People have been saying from day one that Russia is losing. How do you read the situation?
You know, when you go to the start of the war, I think it was February last year, they assumed that Russia was doing something. They assumed that Russia is going to do this. And when Russia didn't do this, they automatically assumed that Russia has failed to do it. Nobody knows exactly what happened. But currently Ukraine is not progressing. It's not going forward. They're not doing well. I've been reading a lot of reports, one of the reports I read was, the counteroffensive was announced for a long time.
Months in advance.
Yeah, they said, we're coming. We're just waiting for the ice to melt. We're waiting for the weather to warm up. And then they blew up the dam.
Yes.
And then this thing started. And as I read from some military experts that, you just send a reconnaissance team that checks out something and comes back. These guys apparently just went in and they got smashed. And yes, if there is an offensive, you need to send people in and they may get smashed. Yes, this is one of the things, but you need to send backup. You need to send more. That is an offensive. But this offensive seems to have petered out. Not looking good. And, somehow, I have, like many of us, I have this sympathy for Russia, or, some good feelings about Russia. Not that I had anything against Ukraine as such. But I have tried to look at this objectively, but I can't see Ukraine coming out happy. I can't see it that way. The US is, as they say, fighting to the last Ukrainian. They're pouring in money.
Yes,
it's a very interesting thing. If I just shift the topic for a bit, see, the US lives on it. It doesn't manufacture television sets, washing machines.
What's the primary export?
Yeah, primary export is war.
Yes.
So what are they doing? They're getting all the European countries to push everything into Ukraine. All their old Soviet stuff went first, the Russian stuff went, and American stuff is coming in. So the US is doing well, whereas Ukraine is getting bashed. And in fact, just today or yesterday, I saw one guy who had written a long series of tweets. It was too long. I couldn't read it. He was, he was saying, you got to understand this. What Ukraine is doing is they're doing this, they're doing that. He was trying to explain why things are not going forward. Not convincing. Not convincing. How is this going to end? I don't know how this is going. I think it'll peter out. It'll peter out like other, the Vietnam War petered out. Afghanistan petered out. I think Ukraine is going to peter out at some stage and they'll reach some kind of agreement. I recall reading, there was a book by V.S. Naipaul. I think he spoke about, I forget which one. He was in Iran and he was speaking about the Iran-Iraq war.
Okay.
And after 8 years, this guy was saying, we were just tired. we've seen so many deaths. And that's what's going to happen to Ukraine. They've just had too many deaths. They can't carry on like this. This is my feeling.
Do you feel that the Iran-Iraq war was also a proxy war like what Ukraine is? Saddam Hussein was obviously aided and abetted by the US.
He was set up.
Right?
In that era, I was living in the UK. I was living in a place called Bolton, just north of Manchester. And I used to drive into Manchester for shopping in the Indian area. And I used to pass an arms factory that was supplying arms to both Iran and Iraq.
How convenient.
Yeah,
how nice.
So, they were having a great time. They were having a great time.
Yes.
So, all these things, let's face it, ultimately, the US has actually been very, very evil. Despite the democracy and the friendship and the fact that, C, A, we are English speakers. B, the US finds it from my generation. The US has been aspirational.
Yes.
I can't make it to the US. At least let my son go.
Yes.
So the US has recognized this very well. Be it diplomats or retired army officers, they make it easy for them to come and get a university seat, get a visa, get a green card and things like that. Make sure that they've Muscovied them nicely, keep them on their side. But the US has been evil. I mentioned to you that I had this Zoom meeting with 4 doctor authors.
Yes.
And one of them actually lives in Malaysia, and he's written a book on Cambodia. And it's so empathetic, how he sheds tears looking at what happened in Cambodia. And I was a student then. See, Cambodia was it was not in the news at all. You just hear about Operation Rolling Thunder, B-52s taking off from, in the Pacific or Thailand and going, dropping bombs on the Ho Chi Minh Trail and in Cambodia. And this massacre was taking place in Cambodia.
Yes.
And basically the US was responsible for that.
Yes.
I mean, it's been responsible for so many things, even the Bangladesh thing, the way they were supporting Pakistan.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. See, I don't want to be a US cursing guy or anything like that. Not like that. I have relatives in the US, I have friends and all that. But let's face facts. We have a problem with the US. You got to be very, very, very careful. Sorry, I've digressed from the Ukraine issue.
Yeah.
But, I think, I always felt that the US would overstretch itself. And I think the US has finally done that, overstretched itself. And I think India has played a fairly good game, feeding them with a little money, which they need.
Ukraine.
Not Ukraine. The USA, we are making friendly with the US. So Ukraine, of course, is different. This whole thing has been a Ponzi scam. I'm told dollars. Because, what happens? In Afghanistan also it is going on. See, these guys, they make equipment and they print more and more dollars. They supply it. And they pay the dollars that are paid comes right back to the US.
Yeah, it's a circular thing.
It's a circular thing.
Yes.
So these things are all interlinked. Sorry, I digressed about Ukraine, but I don't see Ukraine ending well. Ukraine is going to be in a very bad. And it's a funny thing, Abhijit. If you read the history of World War I and World War II. These guys just, like mortar and pestle, you get this thing which we have in our kitchens, you have a thing down and tuck, you put something in it. Europeans seem to fight wars like, how are they continuing for so long? How is Ukraine continuing for so long with this war? And you see, there are certain things they do which we could never do. Which, you guys are bigots. For instance, a particular Russian church, ban it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Particular faith, just ban it. We don't like these guys. We don't like Russians anymore. Look at the way they behave.
They're calling them orcs.
Oh, yeah, they call them. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's horrendous.
Yes, it is.
The thing is, I don't know where we are. It's very interesting that there was this guy from which Eastern European country who said, who was very clear about immigrants. He said that, we are going to keep our culture, but we are iffy, we are sort of secular and apologetic about being, what we need to do. We shouldn't be like that, really. This is what I feel.
Right.
So,
What do you think about the fact that Russia has not really used its air force in Ukraine? I mean, they have fought such a different war from what the US does. The US goes in, flattens everything, and then sends soldiers. The Russians haven't done that.
It's funny. Every time there's a war, you predict that something is going to happen that happened in the previous war. So you had this Azerbaijan-Armenia war, and everybody said that, it's all going to be drones and stuff like that.
Yes.
So see, things are not ending up that way. The Russians have their own way of fighting a war. They've got their own things, and they're using a combination of drones. And of course, in fact, last year they said they ran out of missiles. They haven't run out of missiles.
Haven't run out of missiles.
Maybe their industrial complex was a little rusty, because they've had thousands and thousands of aircraft in the Cold War.
Yes.
Now with around 1989, 1990 that ended. Even after that, they had some, they were manufacturing stuff, but that's probably gone down. But now they've started rolling again. They've started rolling, and so obviously they are not fighting the US style thing, where you go in. And the other thing I feel, Abhijit, is see, I've followed this for, especially military aviation. I've followed it for years. And the Israelis did it first. What the Israelis did was they did what is called as SEAD, suppression of enemy air defenses. I think it was 1967. They went and finished off all the Egyptian and other aircraft on the ground and hit the runways. So this SEAD became a very big thing, at that time. Then a little later on, what happened is the anti-aircraft missiles became much better, and SEAD became very difficult. And now it's reached the stage when this sort of thing, suppression of enemy air defenses by aircraft, is not going to be easy. So, everybody has had different takes on that. The US decided on stealth. So they said, we'll go in stealthily and destroy the defenses and then take our air power.
Or do it from standoff distances.
Do it from standoff distances as well. That means, high altitude where, keep the missiles out of range. This is something that the US did. India, we don't, at least we did not have as many standoff weapons as we have now. But one of the things that still works is very low level attack, very low level, 50 meters, just treetop level. And it's ideally got to be treetop level and single pass. Because once you warn them, I'm here, then they're going to shoot you down. So that is possible. And the other thing to remember, of course, is that enemy air defenses are not like a wall along the border. You can't, if you pass the wall, then you have nothing left. So enemy air defenses are concentrated around, installations and strong points like that. So those are the parts that you need to target. That's where you expect. So you can go across. A war is obviously a difficult thing. And, Russia, I think, has had a lot of problems with the initial losses from surface-to-air missiles and things like that. So they just changed their tactics. They went back to their missiles and they got drones from, So, I've seen in every conflict, things have evolved. Things evolve during the conflict. People make up things, About Russia, I read something that when you allow the junior guys, to do their own thing, they have to survive. They are on the front line. The generals don't know how to change. They can't change. Whereas the guys on the front line, they innovate and do things that work. So the Russians seem to be doing that. And, it's a nation with a long history of, fighting wars, just keeping on fighting. So I don't think Ukraine is really going to get. They'll probably stop somewhere. My question is, will Russia retake Kharkiv or not?
Odessa?
I don't know. And the other thing is whether Crimea, I don't think Russia will let go of Crimea at all.
It makes no sense for them to let it go.
Yeah, that's right. But, the US has been pushing. I don't know how long they'll push. They'll keep on pushing till Biden goes. Biden will go. God knows what will happen next.
What do you think? Okay, let's go into that. What do you think? Who do you think the Democrats are going to put out? Are they going to continue with Biden or are they going to make him retire? What do you think?
I think they'll make him retire. Yeah, I don't think they can continue. This man is, he is actually senile.
He is, unfortunately.
And the thing is, I don't like to name names, and especially there are certain people who are incapable of leadership here in India.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason for putting up a person who is incapable of leadership is because there are people behind who can control.
Indeed.
And yeah, we had a situation under the previous government before the current government that started in 1914 for a decade. We had backseat driving. Essentially backseat driving because our dear Manmohan Singh ji was actually a puppet. Okay, so it can happen. So this is what Biden, I'm sure, is controlled by somebody, and that vice president, I'm not much into what is her name?
Kamala Harris?
Kamala Akka. Kamala Akka is just, she's here. So I don't think, but I don't follow much of American politics.
But if we look at it from afar, there is a president who clearly is incapable of running a country. He has a vice president who is essentially incompetent. So then who exactly is running the country? Is this really a democracy? Or is this like you said, behind the wheels driving? Behind the scenes?
Abhijit, I brought up some of those old things when I was a student, the US bombing Vietnam and Cambodia. Those days we used to sit outside the library and read Time magazine and Life magazine. And those days the US was the place to be, 60s, 70s, a little later than that. But it's going down. And they're a sort of insular country. There was a diplomat from one of the Southeast Asian countries who went to the US. And he says, I've traveled through some 120, 130 countries. He says, I'm back in the US again for something. And I'm astonished. I can't hear anything about what's going on in the outside world. It's all about inside. They have their own... In Mad magazine, there was a very funny story. I'm talking about 40, 50 years ago, one of these Mad magazines where there's a small privately owned newspaper. And then the last issue says, this is the last issue of our publisher's wife's appendicectomy operation. And here is a list of events that took place while we were serializing this. And, US has dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, stuff like that.
Okay.
So the people in the US just have no clue what's going on. They only believe what is there. And they don't look at, I'm shocked at the images I see of people defecating on the road. And, this business of allowing people to take what they want from shops.
Shoplifting, yes.
Yeah, I'm really shocked, but nobody talks about it. You have the New York Times and all these things, talking down to other countries, including India. So what is going on? This is a country that is in distress.
It is.
It's a country in distress, and they're not admitting it. And if you ask my personal opinion, although I do, say that I don't follow American politics much, Trump was doing the right thing. He said, make America great again. What did he do? He said, no more wars.
Yes.
Because it's the arms industry and those people who are controlling things. And, they don't really care about anybody else. They don't care. It's all about money, money, money. If you're rich, you make it. If you're poor, nobody cares.
Yes.
And there are a lot of poor now. So this is how it is. So, it's sad to see the country go that way. Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I used to think of the US as the greatest country in the world. I genuinely believed that. It was, wasn't it? It had such high standards.
It definitely
Everybody.
was. There's no doubt about it. No. Yeah.
What has happened? Why are they doing this to themselves? That's what I wonder.
Serial self-goals, if you ask me. I might digress off. See, basically, anybody American, my own relatives, my friends, they praise capitalism.
Yes.
Okay. Incidentally, capitalism itself is an offshoot of Protestantism, because it's the Protestants who said that God has now allowed you to take all this. So once you have capitalism and seeking profit, now once they wanted everybody to become more and more wealthy and have cheaper and cheaper goods, they gradually outsourced to China.
Yes.
So China has taken on the thing. The only thing the US has kept close is aircraft engines. Probably information technology and things like that. They've been very innovative. They've got some good corporations. But, you can't live on aircraft, guns, missiles. I mean, a country needs things as well. And if some other country is putting a squeeze on them,
yes,
and is, making a lot of money, I think that is what the US did. The US allowed the ball to slip from their hands. in the pursuit of extreme, what shall I say, profit.
Profit, yes.
And the problem is, look, like I said, I belong to, probably you too, or many of us belong to a social class where we have a lot of friends and relatives. Half our guys are over there,
Yes.
because, it's like my aunt who said that, oh, I have one son living in Rajaji Nagar, I have another daughter living in New York or something like that,
Yes.
So it's like two, one is a province in Bangalore and another is, sometimes she's here, sometimes she's there. So this is how we even talk to each other. And then when I talk to those people, they say, oh, they get, many of them get upset. They say, oh, yours is still a very powerful, very rich. They don't want to listen. They don't want to listen.
Yes, right.
I have a cousin who, before 9/11, so 9/11 was when 2001. So 1999 or 2000, he had come to Bangalore visiting. And he said, hey, what is this? They're asking us 3 hours, we got to go to the airport. Where I am in Chicago, I just come 15 minutes before the flight. I just check my baggage, it goes inside.
Really?
And I mean something like that, he said, yeah. Mm-hmm. And now look at it, remove your shoes, remove your underwear, remove,
Yeah.
So, they are, many of course, now I think many Indians at least are waking up, and there are a lot of Americans also who know that there is a problem in the country, but the leadership doesn't seem to be heading in the right direction. It's sort of split inside. It's very difficult to read. Yep. It is a huge country, obviously, a lot of diverse opinions, a lot of very happy, very rich people.
Yes, right. Do you see America in decline? Do you think it's declining?
Oh, definitely. America is definitely declining. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. It's going to take a long time to come down. The worry for me is, I don't think countries like this decline peacefully.
Peacefully. They'll lash out.
Yeah, they lash out.
Yes.
And the US has, even if it becomes an internal war in the US, which may or may not happen, you have 250 million arms, small arms inside the US. It won't be nice. There has to be a fundamental change in the US for it to sort of find its place peacefully. But right now, see, for too many years they've been going down. Now, they've sort of been aggressive and pushing people out, and suddenly they are finding that they can't do it anymore. There's resistance. They're not having their way. This is what has happened. And I think they're still trying to figure out what's going on. Because, there's been a lot of talk, of course, leave alone the Quad. I don't know what's going on. I think when perhaps in one of the other persons you said you would be talking to would be able to say more about the Quad. But certainly the US is looking for assistance, looking for help from others. The funny thing is the word ally for these Anglo-Saxons and Europeans means different. Ally comes from the old, what shall I say, the royalties of who are all related in Europe.
Right.
Ally means you enter the war. Okay. That means that if you get into a war, if some person attacks you and I'm your ally, I join you. Whereas we don't do that. We can be friendly and things like that. We're not allies in the sense that we are going to join the war.
Right.
Yeah. So, the US will find it very difficult to find allies of that sort. In Europe, yes. And even in Europe, it's going to get difficult with NATO. This is my feeling. But, there are many of them. I think these countries are all bound by their laws. The law for NATO is they have to join. There's no other go. But aside from that, it's not easy. Nobody wants to get into other people's wars.
Yes. Yeah. I think the NATO nations have no choice. They have to do what the Americans do.
They have no choice.
And another funny thing in Europe is the past decade or so, there are these massive waves of migrations into Europe. African origin people from the Middle East. It's typically military-age men who migrate as refugees. I mean, typically, if you think of refugees, it should be women and children, right? Who are escaping from some distress, some kind of distress. It's always these military-age men. And these people always enter the NATO countries. Are the Americans trying to destroy Europe by changing the demographics?
I think Europe is destroying itself. This is what I feel, by their woke laws and things like that.
But where is wokeism coming from? I think it's all originating in the US, isn't it?
I think wokeism has gone mad in the US, but yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a different type of wokeism in Europe. This is my feeling. And also, of course, Europe has a geography problem. You know, Europe has certain laws about refugees that you got to let in. You know, they probably have quotas. They probably have quotas of letting in so many refugees. And I may be mistaken, but I thought one of the reasons why for Brexit was this business of having to take in these refugees, and these guys are just taking them in. And you know what? With these riots in France, somebody was saying. In fact, I don't understand it. In France, apparently, if you have a guy, you know, he's guy from the Middle East or Libya or whatever it is. If he's living in France, if he's a French citizen, he's French. He's not considered an alien. So in fact, you had these people begging and saying, "Don't attack them, don't arrest them."
I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. So you know, it's a strange aspect of French law that does this. And the other thing is, you know, what does law mean? This is a very interesting thing. Now, a law means that, you know, if the law is broken, there has to be 100% punishment for breaking the law.
It should be guaranteed.
Yeah, it should be guaranteed.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, S.N. Balagangadhara or Professor Balu, who lived who was in Ghent University, Belgium, he's just retired. He wrote a lot about, you know, how laws are followed or not followed. Sometimes in India, laws are made with a different sort of sense. You know, they're sort of held there as something that may come on you. They're not. But whereas in Europe, it's different. When Europe says you can't touch these guys who are writing, they can't touch them. They allow them to loot.
Yes.
This is how it is. So it's a very strange thing. The other thing, of course, as I see it, you know, as lives improved, the birth rate has come down. Yes. Okay. Once you have the birth rate coming down, you need labor, you need people to come in. So they've allowed people to come in. Those people have no problem with birth rate or anything like that. And, you know, they're probably going to take over in due course. They're probably going to increase in number. And, you know, I don't know how politically correct or not correct. I'll let it pass. I'll talk about it in due course, you know, as we are talking. Yeah.
Okay. See, Europe, for the past 70 or so years, has not really had any major war. We had some outbreaks in the Balkans and all that, but overall it's been at peace, because during the Cold War there were two major powers in Europe. One was the USSR, one was the US, the Eastern and Western blocs. Now the USSR is no longer there. Russia is trying to reclaim what it's lost to some extent right now. Maybe we're seeing the beginning of that. And the Americans are declining. Europe historically has always been at war. They've always fought each other, the French versus the British, the Germans and everything else. Do you see the Europe eventually descending back into war once the external powers decline?
See, that's an interesting question. One of the things I've heard about the EU is that it was engineered to keep Germany in check. Yeah, Germany is one country that would probably shoot ahead of all the other European countries.
Is that why they're pushing migrants into Germany?
That's a possibility. Yes, that's right. It's possible. Yeah. I feel that, you know, something will crack in Europe at some stage after a point, and they'll become extraordinarily racist, because, you know, the Europeans are not going to say Muslim. They're going to say, you know, you're a brown guy. You're some guy. It'll be everybody will get into trouble. Indians. As well as Middle Easterners, and, you know, this is what is going to happen. They will see, because, you know, it's funny that Nazis are rampant in Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is so. Yeah.
And the sympathy, without mentioning the word Nazi, is there. You know, oh, these people are Europeans. They're not Libyans. They're not Syrians.
Yeah.
You know, you see people like that. So it's latent. It's latent in Europe, and I can't understand how it is, because, see, I have a very good friend in Edinburgh, and when I left, you know, it was like some Indians and all that, but now apparently there are a lot of Pakistanis. Okay. And this guy was he's about my age, a little older than me. One day he was sitting in a hospital common room, and then this guy came, beard and, you know, kurta and all that, in the hospital. He said, "Nahi aaoge? Aaj namaz karna hai?" over there in Edinburgh. So this guy said, what the heck? He said, what are you calling me for that? So this is happening. And when I speak to this friend and his friends, other friends, the English friends and all, they don't openly say what's going on. They're upset. They just keep quiet. They say, no, the laws are this. We're not supposed to do that. So they keep quiet.
I see.
Their behavior is sort of different. I can't understand it. But sometimes something is going to crack. Yeah, something's going to break. And this is what I don't know when it's going to happen. Maybe somewhere inside I feel I'm hoping that it will happen. Because if it doesn't happen, Europe is finished. Europe is just going. This is my feeling. Europe is completely finished. Anyway, no matter what happens to US or America or whatever, we have to make sure that our civilization goes ahead and we remain strong.
It's very important.
And that is what we have to do. We have to look after ourselves.
What are the threats we are facing? Civilizational threats.
We are basically a country that has an old culture that is very tolerant.
Yes.
And it's our Bible that is a problem. Our Quran, that is our Constitution.
The Constitution.
The Constitution is a problem. Okay. So, as I see it, secularism itself was a sort of apology. No. Don't go to Pakistan. Do stay here. We'll keep off. Do whatever you can have more than what you get in Pakistan. You can have 4 wives. You can have triple talaq, you can have this, we'll give you money to go to Hajj. So, all these things were there. And so, as somebody said, that for some Indians, Pakistan was like fixed deposit and India was current account. Okay. So, you have things like that. And of course, there was the Pasmandas on one side and the Ashraf. And the Ashraf have, there has been India is a country where the indigenous Hindus have been bashed down psychologically. You're fools, you're losers, that sort of thing. And you have the Ashraf, we ruled you for 1,000 years. And we've also said, we ruled you, you ruled us. We've been like that. We need to stop being apologetic, look at history correctly. And this whole Aryan invasion business is part of the gaslighting that we've had right from the beginning. To say how you guys you had no history, you were all useless guys until everything came with these guys. This is the thing that we've had. So what we have to do is to reclaim our history and see what the laws are like in order to make it fair for ourselves. Because and the other thing is we have a lot of see, our political system is extraordinarily corrupt in most places. Extraordinarily corrupt. And when you talk about, say, temples being under government control, it's a money-making machine. People are praying, they're going to temple, the government is taking the money and, they're doing all sorts of stuff like that. So, we need to get temples back in our control. And, the thing is, see, look, I was a young boy when Nehru was there. So I've, seen sort of everything from Nehru till now. This is definitely the best period we've had, the last 10 years.
Last 10 years?
Last 10 years has been absolutely the best because the country has gone in the right direction. And it's very funny, if I don't win an election and you win, you're a fascist. Okay.
Yes.
And this is what is going on, which is complete nonsense because the things that have, actually, this man, Modi, has somebody asked me before 1914, what do you think of Modi? I don't think of Modi. I don't know anything about him at all. This is what I said. And in those days, I actually voted, contributed to AAP in 1913 elections in, 2013 elections in Karnataka. Can you believe it? So I didn't know anything about Modi. And I thought, chalo yaar, let Advani get a chance now. Man like Modi, how will he be able to control the country? I am astonished. Because as I see it, one of the things, after I came back from the UK and started living in India, I used to struggle with people pissing. People pissing outside my compound, urinating, or defecating outside. And, we used to fight it because, we used to say no. I used to put up signs or, I was always the guy who said, don't, there's a toilet there, go there. And the man would say, but I am diabetic. Arey, diabetic hua to kya hai? And I was astonished at the way this man, I was so happy. The first thing he did was get toilets.
Yes.
It's absolutely fantastic. And the other thing, of course, is, nobody seems to believe it, but it's a fact, and it's in my Pakistan book. Pakistan was printing Indian currency.
Yes.
Pakistan was printing Indian currency with a machine that was Indian. So they bought paper from the same source.
So authentic currency.
Yeah, they were printing authentic currency by the thousands of crores.
Yes.
And Modi just snipped that.
Yes.
Nobody, because we are so secular, we cannot believe that we have a criminal nation next to us.
Yes.
And somebody is going to say, oh, you mean all Pakistanis are criminals? You're a Muslim hater, Islamophobia. How can you say that? That's not the point. That two points. That criminal nation, the army are criminals.
Yes, correct.
Okay, the army are criminals. And right from 1973, they have been, after the 1971 war, they've been teaching children to hate India. We have a population of 55 years down, who hate India. They do hate India. And the fact that they don't like India, who is noted right back then? Manishankar Iyer. Manishankar Iyer has said it in his book. I have his book. It says that. So, so the next thing Modi did was, the demonetization. And then he made sure that the middleman goes by digitization.
Yes, true.
Yeah. All the poor people get money straight away. And, so these are all fantastic things. I'm not even talking about the military things and surgical strike and all that. Done a lot of good for the country.
Right.
Yeah. So we go, and the other thing is industrialization. So we need, nations, states like Bihar and Odisha have to pick up. But we've got all this young population. They have to be employed.
Yes.
Okay. There's been a lot of, some resistance against, for instance, this, what is it called? A company, the army recruitment for this 4-year thing.
Agniveer scheme.
Yeah, Agniveer. There's been a lot of it. But I think, personally, I think Agniveer is a very good idea.
I also support Agniveer.
Yeah, it's a very good idea because, see, here you have a young man who goes and gets fit, gets a sense of patriotism, comes out with 12 lakhs. Or they may increase that for investment. And at the same time, this huge burden of pensions is going to come down over time. See, I respect our armed forces. I've been I slobber over them mentally. I've made 280, 300 videos all about our armed forces and what we need to do.
Yes.
So it's nothing like that. But, I don't get pension, but they should get pension. But, at some point we have to think, how can we reduce this? So in that sense, I think that it's a very good move. So there are a lot of good things have happened. The economy is going up. It's got to keep on like that. That's the thing.
So one of the points that's been made about the Agniveer scheme is that you cannot train a soldier in that much time. Well, the Israelis do it. Many other nations do it. So why can't the Indian armed forces do that?
See, people who complain and say you can't train the soldier, I'm sure they have something. I'm sure they're right. Okay, in a sense, they're right that they have a problem. You can't really do it. I don't dismiss them at all. The system has to change, and somebody has to force the system to change. And they have to take the Agniveers who, at the end of 4 years, are good, and perhaps make them work a little. I wrote an article in Air Power Asia about the Chinese and their problems with recruitment and things like that. So every country has a problem for some reason or the other. Their problem is an aging population, and they don't want to come to Tibet and things like that. We have a young population, and we need, even if it's only a minuscule amount, we need to employ them. So Agniveer is only one part of it. Industrialize, make things. Okay, see, the problem is, we are not going to compete with plasticky stuff. We're going to find it difficult to compete with the little things that come from China or even Vietnam or Malaysia. Okay, but we can definitely do arms. That's what we need anyway. Start making arms, start making vehicles and stuff like that. That is the way to go. Start manufacturing. And the recent moves, of having foundries for chips. These are all good things. We need to invest and go into that. I have happy to see that going on. Want to see it continue.
Chips is a very important point because AI is all built on chips. The GPUs. As long as we had CPUs, AI didn't take off. But once the GPUs came in, AI started taking off. Chips is a very big deal, and 90% of the chips come from TSMC, Taiwan. We don't know what's going to happen there. So it's very important that we start making our own chips. But it's going to be a long process to develop the sophistication and the VLSI architecture and all that to be able to make chips at the cutting edge level. But do you think we're on the right track?
See, as I see it, sometimes this word cutting edge is a very difficult thing. It's very. See, I will just shift the topic to aero engines, and I have seen aircraft engines, evolve over the last 20-25 years, and every time there's a little development, it has gone further ahead. We'll never be cutting edge. It'll be a very long time before. We should not aim for cutting edge. We should aim for something that is good enough, that works, and gradually it will become cutting edge for us. We will make something. Same way chips is, and most people don't realize that when you talk about missiles and precision guided munitions and things like that, they're using 386. I don't think they're even using 486 chips, because there's a lot of them around. They are old. All the bugs are known. Okay, so you can, and you do, those chips are not wasting time giving you good graphics, good music. All it needs to do is look at this. So this is the sort of thing. But we do need to start making chips for dedicated chips. I do agree with that. That's absolutely essential. We need to build up workers. Technology is a very funny thing, Technology is about human hands. See, for instance, you use a 6-axis CNC machine to cut some fan blades, something like that. But the final thing, the final polishing, the final measurements, the last bits are done by humans who can see, okay, they say, this is wrong, reject this, these are good. These human things nobody is going to give us. And we've been gaslighted into thinking that technology transfer karenge. Technology? Nobody is going to transfer technology. Nobody is going to you can't even transfer technology. And my late cousin, who was in the Airforce, he met somebody from the Pavel Sukhoi Bureau. He was talking to those days. And that fellow, I think it may have been Pavel Sukhoi himself, I don't know. He said, technology, what do you think? I am technology. You see the kind of thing, the attitude they have. And I recall that somebody had asked about how do you improve Kaveri.
Yes, Kaveri, yes.
And the Kaveri engine. And these fellows said, you just got to keep trying. See, we've got all this huge database of all the things you shouldn't do, all the mistakes we've made. So, if you avoid those mistakes and go in this route, still nobody can teach you. You just have to move forward. You got to do it. So, we have to work. We have to keep our people employed. We should not let the ball drop like we let it drop for HF-24. We need to keep our submarines coming. We need to keep aero engine coming. We need to keep submarines coming. We need to do it. We shouldn't believe that people are going to give us something. And I feel that, we are so mentally colonized. We'll say, "Arey, udhar se mil jayega." This will come. It's not going to come. We have to do it ourselves. Employ our people. That's no the go for us.
Right. So aero engines have evolved a lot since the 1940s. The first aero engines were made by the Germans, I think, in the Second World War. And then Rolls-Royce came in, and
a lot of other companies.
Lots of other companies. And it's been something that took decades to perfect. Where do you think we are right now when it comes to the Kaveri? I think they are already using it for a drone or something?
No, not yet. Not yet. Kaveri hasn't flown yet. It should have been. It is so sad. There's retired Air Marshal Philip Rajkumar, who was in charge of the LCA program, who's known me from the time when I was 6-7 years old. And when the Kaveri first flew in Russia 8-10 years ago, he had called me and said, "Shiv, I think they should really put it and fly it. It has the capability. It may not have met the power requirements, but somehow we are not doing it." On the other hand, the Chinese, they copied engines. They had the guts. One of the things is, if you look at certain Western engines, they've got a mean time between failure of something, ridiculously high. I can't even, maybe 10,000 hours. It's called MTBF, mean time between failure. 5,000 hours, 10,000 hours, and things like that.
Okay.
So I was told that the Chinese engines had a mean time between failure of 20 hours.
Okay.
Okay, ठीक है, 20 hours रहने दो. Run it for 10 hours, yeah. Fly it for 10 hours.
Yeah.
And then take the engine out.
Yeah.
See, there was a Soviet philosophy. One of the reasons why the Soviet engines and things seemed to be crude was, they said, make it, let it crash in the war, just put another one. This was I'm not saying we should let it crash, but make something and use it, put it online. We don't seem to have the guts or the sense to do that. I don't know why we don't do that. It's a real mistake. We have to encourage our things. We have to take our things. And I keep saying, I'm sorry to say, when World War I started, at the start of World War I think Britain had only about some 300, 400 aircraft.
Okay.
At the end of World War I, 4 years later, they had, I don't know, some 14,000 aircraft. Where were they importing from? They had no import. They had nobody to import them. They had to make it.
Yes, right.
And when they made it, there were faults. Planes crashed.
Yes, yes.
See, we have to accept, we don't have that mass of people with engineering sort of awareness. We have a mass of people who are very good at, we are a nation of bean counters. Kitna hua? Kaise diya? This much. We are always counting beans. Our people don't understand technology. They don't understand that failure is the route to success.
Yes, true. Yeah.
You must spend money. You will spend more money than that, but ultimately, and you mentioned the date, 40s, correct. A lot of engines that were core engines that were made in the 40s and 50s. Those same core engines are still there, developing into the latest engines on airliners. So, we have a long way to go, but we must invest and carry on. We have to do that. Unless we do that, we are just going to keep on importing from. Yeah. And there's one more thing I don't understand. See, for instance, the Jaguar has what is called as the Adore engine. The same Adore engine is used in the Hawk trainer, which we make right here in Bangalore. And when I ask people, they say, we make the entire Adore engine here. Arey, theek hai yaar, agar bana raha hai to go and use it. Why don't you put it on some plane? But no. I don't know. I don't know whether there is hidden text. That is to say, although we can make everything in the Adore engine, we make everything, but a chota screw, nut, bolt, some special materials udhar se aa raha hai, we input, maybe something like that. See, again, AL-31 engine for Su-30. They say we are making from raw material level. Yeah, we're making full engines.
We are making the engine in India.
In India from raw material.
Then why can't we use that for other aircraft?
You tell me. I'm asking.
It makes no sense to me.
Yeah. So, there is some hidden text. So anyway, now we are looking for engines. We are looking for high tech. Now they say that G414, theek hai, they won't transfer the technology.
They won't transfer the crystal blade thing.
Yeah. No, see, in fact, we have single crystal blades. We have a lot of these things. We have the ceramic core things, the single crystal blades, blisks. Okay. We have all these things. We have made something. But there are certain, it's several specialities. One is, the actual temperatures and the pressures that you achieve, those and the fuel efficiency and things like that. So these are all refinements that those people have already done. G414, I'll tell you why I think it's good. Even if they don't transfer it, even if they transfer only 80%, you see, it allows the LCA Mark II program to continue.
Yes, right.
And it will probably allow AMCA and perhaps other things. By the time we should develop something. There's some news in the air saying that we are collaborating with some French company, maybe
Safran,
Snecma or something like that. Maybe we'll do it. But ultimately, we have to do it. Yeah. Unless, ultimately...
You can't keep depending on others. You've got to make it yourself.
Yeah. There are a few Indian engines that have been made. Small engines, little micro turbo engines that can power a cruise missile or something.
Okay.
And HAL is working on two similar engines, HTFE and HTSE. Hindustan turboshaft engine and Hindustan turbofan engine.
Okay.
Turboshaft engine, there was a model in Aero India. I think not this last year before the last Aero India, that can be used for helicopters. So something is going on, but there has to be adequate funding.
Funding.
See, the people at the top have to realize that idhar jana hai, put this is important. They don't seem to be. Maybe, I don't know. These are the rumors we hear that some guy comes. Some foreign guy says, "Don't worry. We'll give you this." And I've heard time and time again that the minute India reaches some milestone and is about to see, there'll be a technology that's very expensive to import. So we put in some money and work on it for years and years, and we almost reach the stage when it can come into production. That's the time those guys drop their prices and say, "Chalo, le lo. Here, you can have it." So then this becomes uneconomical. And this is the thing we need to avoid. Because our bean counters will say, "Arey, ye uneconomical ho gaya, usko le lena." We shouldn't do that. Keep funding this, keep working on that. And this is the kind of buddhi we need to develop. We need to do it on our own. I sincerely hope it happens. And funny thing is, Abhijit, it takes 30, 40 years.
Yes.
For people, see, for instance, when I was a young man, I noticed something and I said it and I exchanged this information with my friends. And my generation have grown up to this age and they've made a few changes. Hopefully, the young generation now will listen to all these things and in 20, 30 years, they'll rule the world. I'm hoping.
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
When it comes to technology, the Chinese are masters at reverse engineering technology. They'll acquire an aircraft. They will reverse engineer the entire design. I mean, one of the Sukhoi aircraft is now a Chinese J something or whatever. And they have produced so many different kinds of drones. Why can't India do that? Buy, beg, borrow, steal, whatever. Acquire it. And I mean, their W whatever engines, they aren't that great. But they're starting to use them now, right?
Yeah, they've just started to use them. See, I'll say two things, okay? People may disagree with me, get angry with me. The Chinese bluff a lot. Okay, they've done a lot of things, but some of their technology is not that good. Okay, and if it was that good, you should have people using it everywhere and buying it. Pakistan is not very happy with what they've got from China. They're not using Chinese avionics. None of the other countries, whether it is Burma or whatever other country has bought those things, they're not very happy. But what you say is absolutely right. They've reverse engineered. As regards drones, making drones is not that difficult. Okay, because now you have the electronics, you have all motor. You can order motors. I was so surprised how cheap they are. The motors. Okay, trying to order them on Amazon, but they're all coming from China. So China is making those things. They're making them really cheap. See, this is something we need to do. We need to make from component upwards.
Yes.
We need to do that.
Bottom up, yes.
See, one of my hobbies was target shooting with an air rifle.
Okay.
And I wanted a mount for the telescope. Actually, air rifles have horrible recoil. Okay. You won't believe it.
Really, air rifles?
No, because it has a double recoil.
Okay.
See, that spring goes forward first, it hits the end and comes back. If it's a spring rifle, okay. So what happens is when you're holding it, you don't realize it, you go tuck tuck and the telescope gets shaken up. So you need a good mount. And it was a sort of special steel mount. I tried to find some guys here in Bangalore. One guy said 5,000 rupees, another guy said something difficult to make. Sir, China, I got it those days, this was pre-COVID, 2016, 2017. I ordered from China, 400 rupees.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so this is what is going on. So, they've done these things. And I remember once, one guy, I don't know how far it's true, I'll say it, it's not very old information, maybe 10 years old. This was when it was somebody who's related to A.K. Anthony, distant relative. The chap whom I met from Bharat Rakshak, who said that the CNC machines in HAL, for manufacturing LCA and all that, were all Chinese, and there were Chinese technicians, looking at them and all that. So,
wow.
those days. Yeah, you don't realize some of these things. The block of aluminium that we need, special aviation aluminium for LCA, was imported from France, and France has a long waiting list.
Okay.
You can't order one and say, "Abhi, bhej do samosa chai." Okay. You need to order it because.
So is that why the LCA we are only manufacturing 16 a year or whatever?
No, not so much that now. I think the reason was, it came from ADA, then came to HAL. HAL does not want to be and should not be a manufacturer. They shouldn't be making
designers. Right?
Yeah, they should be integrators. That means you should have 100 or 1,500 suppliers. Okay. One guy makes nuts, bolts, another guy makes something else, third guy makes that. You just get it together, fly it and test it. So this is what it is. And the same is true for anything we import. When we import and assemble, there'll be small manufacturers in that country whom, the little rings, the little screws, the bearings, the oils, the lubricants, special lubricants, all are made by small companies there, which we don't have here. And it's uneconomical to set up entire factories. If you're going to make, say, 50 engines, okay, and you need maybe 200 of some particular part, 4 per engine. You can't set up a whole factory for that, whereas you have some guy there who's making by the 1,000 and exporting to everybody else.
Right.
So it's a problem of scale that we've had. So, this is how it is. But one of the things, sorry, am I talking too much?
Not at all. Please.
See, one of the things when I went to the UK first, in the early 1980s was, I would get on the train, and going along the train, yes, there would be countryside, but there were industries, everywhere industries.
Right.
So that is industrialization. And here, it's much better now, around cities and all, you see that kind of industrialization. You have long stretches of nice countryside fields, but no, we just don't have that degree of industrialization and the industrial, specialization that the real industrialized countries, and we have to go that way. We have to industrialize.
Right.
And when we industrialize, we must industrialize in things that others are not doing. Certainly, weapons is one of those things. Tanks and that's it.
Tanks. That's a good thought. We import so many Russian tanks.
Yeah.
What stops us from making our own version of the tank?
I don't know. Of all the armed forces, if you ask my personal opinion as a civilian who's not in the armed forces, the Navy has the smallest budget, and they are the most forward-looking. They are the ones who will innovate. They will take local. The Air Force is very high tech, and their army is most conservative. Okay. And they are the biggest. There is still a feeling in the army that we are akhir mein hum hi to karna hai. You have to put man on the ground. They're the biggest one, so they are most conservative and most resistant to change.
I see.
And once they have all these, you have the T-72 and the T-90, which is similar to that same technology. There are certain good things about, maybe they are happy about that. And I don't know why. Yes, they've had, let me be fair. Let me not blame the army or anything like that. Our industrial suppliers too have their faults. You have things. I did mention the ALH. ALH is a very good helicopter.
Yes.
It's flown hundreds of thousands of hours. But there are issues. Okay, I won't go into individual issues. But, the ALH is not yet certified for civilian use.
Okay.
The problem about certification for civilian use is they need to make certain changes and get it certified. Certification is but certification is not easy at all. The certifying body, SEMILAC, is very strict. You need to have loads and loads of documentation about everything. And manufacturers are reluctant to get into that. Here they have something good going. They've got a long order list. Chalo, carry on. That is one thing. And the other thing, to be very fair, I've heard from various people. Okay, I'll reminisce. When I came back from the UK, I used to work with my cousin, was a Veer Chakra winner. He had to retire from the Air Force.
I see.
And he joined HAL as a flight safety manager. And one of his very close friends was a man called Kapil Bhargav. Kapil Bhargav is a very well-known name in the Air Force. He was Group Captain Kapil Bhargav. He was a great test pilot. Okay, so I used to visit with my cousin Suresh. I used to go to Kapil Bhargav's house, and they used to discuss about flight accidents. They were trying to make a database for flight accidents, crashes. And I was trying to write software for medical diagnosis, and I found certain similarities. And that is the time I heard from my cousin at that time, there's very bad blood between armed forces and HAL.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there was a lackadaisical attitude in the factory, and the armed forces didn't like it. They said, look, this is what it is. There is a certain aspect of work culture in HAL, which it's a PSU. 5 baje ho gaye to ghar jate hain.
Okay.
Whereas armed forces are not used to working like that. अगर कुछ काम करना है, sorry, I'm speaking in Hindi.
Yeah, please go.
अगर कुछ काम करना है तो करेंगे.
Yeah.
खत्म करके जाएंगे.
Yes.
खत्म नहीं हो तो कल सुबह तक करता ही रहेंगे. Sort of thing. So there are certain issues which need to be cleaned up. I say it because I can say it. Okay. Yeah, I'm neither from this organization. I'm saying from what I've heard from various people in that. I don't want to curse anything. HAL is doing well. They've done a lot. But, we in our country, if the manufacturer and the user don't have good relations, things are not going to work very well.
Yes.
It's a very serious, very, very serious issue. So I just want to mention that. I have details, but I'll go into it if it comes up.
All right. Talking about the Navy, do you think our Navy is equipped enough? Do we have enough ships, enough submarines to defend, to safeguard our interests in the Indian Ocean region?
I think it needs to be a lot bigger.
A lot bigger, right?
We've done well, we've expanded. I think it could, it could be a lot bigger. I would like to see a Navy at least twice as big, right. One more aircraft carrier, a lot more submarines, and a lot more minesweepers. This is what, we need minesweepers, submarines. We need submarines, we really, submarines. See, it was so sad, that this submarine line was just closed down in between.
The Scorpion line, right?
Yeah, it was
closed it down.
They just closed it down. And see, what happens is, like I said, it's a human thing. There's a guy who knows how this fits. And this, this is not, something like that, This needs a little bit of, now
he'll go to North Korea or somewhere.
Yeah, or he'll retire.
Yeah.
He'll just retire. Then the new guy knows nothing. He has to go, he has to go to Korea somewhere and learn. We should not allow these guys to go away. So
why did we shut down the Scorpion line? We could have made our own Scorpions and fitted them with our own propulsion or whatever.
I don't know whether it's lack of funds or lack of foresight or both. Lack of foresight and it's very sad. We shouldn't do that. We need to keep going with our submarines. We just need to keep going.
Now we're shopping for a new kind of submarine, right?
Well, the news is all sorts of things, P-75.
Yeah,
they say, P-75. Then they say, no, we'll make something in India. We'll put our own fundamentally, I don't know what's going on.
How many submarines do you think we need, ideally?
I think we need about 60. This is my feeling.
The Koreans have 90, I think. The North Koreans. Yeah. The Chinese have a whole lot of submarines.
I don't know. They have, I think 60 may be a big number, to be more practical. If we had about 40, 35 to 40 probably.
The thing about naval assets is that if you have 3, you can only use one at a time.
Yeah.
One is being refitted, one is either being transited from one place to another, and the third one is deployed. Yeah. So if you want to deploy 20 subs, you need to have at least 60.
Correct.
And if you want to deploy 20, let's say, destroyers, you need to have 60. So we really need to invest in.
Yeah, agreed. In wartime they'll pull out those things. Some things won't be working. They'll use it. But there is a downside to making too many also, like the Chinese. The downside is, if there is a design problem, if there is something.
Oh, true.
Yeah, you have 20 ships of one class. All of them
need
design to come back.
Yeah.
For that. Okay, and how do you train that many sailors to do that thing? And see, running an aircraft, that is one thing the Navy has done. Somehow they've scrambled and kept an aircraft carrier going, because aircraft carrier operations is not something you can gain just like that. It requires a certain amount of experience, and the Navy has kept it going. The Chinese don't have that experience.
Do we really need aircraft carriers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where would we use one?
See, the thing is, power projection, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
But peacetime power projection or wartime?
Definitely in wartime as well. The thing, see, the aircraft carrier will always go with a bubble of protection.
Do we have that bubble? Do we have enough assets?
Yeah. Well, I would like to see more submarines and more minesweepers along, but we do. We have a certain degree of that. I think it will work, yeah.
When was the last time an aircraft carrier was used in a contested environment?
71.
71, right? That's 50 years ago.
Yeah, 50 years ago.
So aircraft carriers haven't really seen war in 50 years. I think we had 82. Falklands.
Oh, sorry, sir. You're talking about in the world, yeah.
In the world, yeah.
Yeah, correct. Falklands. Yes,
Falklands.
Correct, yeah.
But today we have hypersonic missiles, we have supersonic missiles. It's a mathematical certainty. If you launch enough missiles, you're going to penetrate the defenses. Isn't that problematic for an enormous investment like an aircraft carrier?
See, it's like this. Why have armed forces? People are going to get killed.
Yeah.
It's a risky thing. You have something that is powerful. You have to apply it right. Apply it in a place, look at the risks and then apply it with that. The risk is always there. It can get sunk. But before it gets sunk, have a certain plan in mind. What are you going to do with it? Yes, it may get sunk on the way. It's very sad. We'll try and avoid its being sunk. Whether it's going to be sunk by a hypersonic missile coming from somewhere. And the other thing is, what is plan B? Supposing it is hit, it may not be sunk. It's not easy to sink a carrier with one missile. But, supposing it's disabled in some way. The plan B is, what are you going to do to those guys even before it happens.
Yes.
The whole idea involved would be to hit the other guy, to punish him, not hold your punches. You have to punish him, make it hard for him. Make it really hard for him.
Yes.
Knock out his ships, take it down. So this is war. It's bad. It's
war
bad.
is bad.
Worry that something will be lost in war is not something that the armed forces have.
My worry is, what is the ideal way to use our money? Aircraft carriers, missile boats, submarines, a multitude of different kinds of assets.
All. If you ask my opinion, all. But the other interesting thing is our big secret, our nuclear submarines, where you have had SSBNs and now there's some SSNs coming. And sometimes we are very good at keeping secrets.
That's good.
This SSN is total surprise the way what they're doing with it. Obviously, we'll never know it. It's like the way they kept the nuclear tests secret, completely secret. So that was nice. But we need conventional submarines as well. We need a whole lot of them.
Do we have enough missiles on our warships?
Yeah, see, this is the thing that people ask, okay, that there are not enough missiles on our warships. So, this is my feeling. My feeling is that the more missiles you have, the more it burns better. Okay, one. Second thing is, I did a video on this about aircraft in general. How many are you going to use up? What is if you have 60 missiles, yes, it's a different thing for, say, America. America has used cruise missiles, just sent them flying across over Pakistan, put it into Syria. But if you're talking ship to ship, how many ships are you going to knock off? If you have, say, 10 missiles, 8 or 10 missiles, for a given patrol, it's all right. It's okay. You don't need to have 60. What would you do with 60 missiles? You probably won't get 60 ships to it. Yeah, if you're talking about land attack, yes. Land attack also, I have myself said this. We don't realize how big the world actually is.
Yeah.
When you look at an air base from the air, it is a huge area. And when you, how conventional, I'm not talking about nuclear. Conventional missile, how much does it carry? It carries a 300 kg warhead.
Yes.
It's not even a 500 kg bomb, not even a 1,000-pounder bomb. It will make a 30-40 meter crater.
Yeah.
Craters on the runway can be repaired within 6 hours, not a problem. Dispersed aircraft not there, they are not going to hit. You have to put in 100, and I didn't say this, in fact, I think it was Lieutenant General Palipur Ravishankar and others also have said, you may need 150 missiles to knock off an airbase.
One airbase.
Yeah, one airbase. To really, the Americans put 75 cruise missiles on a Syrian, was it Iraqi airbase? I forget, Shire or something airbase.
Okay.
They didn't knock it out. Next day planes were operating. Yeah. Agreed, they did damage, with cruise missiles, and I'm not saying the Americans are weak, but just launching off missiles like that, I'll tell you what worries me more. The armed forces, they're concerned, but they're not scared. They say, let it come on. We'll also hit them back. What will happen is, you'll have civilian casualties.
Yes.
Planes will, the missiles and bombs, if they fall on Delhi and all these places, people will start panicking, "Arey, we are finished." People may be more, we've become softies, no war, no?
No war for too long.
We've not had war for so long, we've become softies.
Yes.
In fact, even the politicians have forgotten what is emergency. See, 65 and 71, excuse me, I'll just take a sip.
Please do.
1965 and 1971, we had emergency. What happens in an emergency is that the government has extraordinary powers to impound vehicles if they need for that transport, and they put a control on the press so that rumors, because it's very easy in war to have, for instance, I'm sitting here in Bangalore and there's a big war going on, and somebody says Delhi has been nuked, and there's going to be a big panic. And
Yes.
Social media, like this Pannu guy, whether he's dead or not, nobody knows.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, but it's all over the media.
It is.
So, this sort of thing spreads. So, in an emergency, it's completely different control. These fellows have forgotten. They say emergency-like situation. Kya emergency-like? See, these people don't know. Emergency is completely different. It's a national emergency where national resources are taken from everywhere to fight that. We did not even have that emergency during the Kargil war.
Right, we did not.
Yeah. See, I saw a tweet saying, why are they calling it semantics? Why are they calling it conflict and why not war? I mean, war means what we had in 65 and 70.
National mobilization.
Yeah, national mobilization. Okay, anyway, it's semantics. So, this is what it is. War is where if the population panics, then we have a problem.
The people of India who are alive today haven't really seen a war. They don't know what it is like, right?
See, 99, Kargil, how many? It's 24 years. And if a guy was, say, 8 years old or 9 years, 10, even 10 years old, he may not remember much about the details.
But Kargil was a very localized conflict.
Yeah, even then, it was some kind of conflict. It was in the media.
Yeah.
It's now, 24 years since Kargil. And a guy who was 8 or 9, so you have guys in their 30s who won't know much about what a war is.
Yes.
And, there's going to be, and nowadays on social media, everybody is an expert. Everybody is an expert.
Yes, true.
Yeah. In fact, no armed forces officers don't come. Retired guys can't say a thing. Minute they say a thing, somebody will jump on him and say, you're wrong. And some, very, very senior, respected people, there are guys arguing, no, it's like this, it's like that.
That's one of the things that social media has brought us. Yeah, that's right. So we haven't had a war essentially since 1971. I don't see Kargil as a war. It was a localized conflict. We didn't even cross the border.
Yeah,
we were not allowed to cross the border. Do you see war happening sometime in the future? I'm not just talking about India, but maybe in Asia. Do you think Taiwan could be a flashpoint? Do you think the Chinese may make a move on Taiwan sometime?
I personally doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it. Because it's getting to a stage when war is not, everybody is well armed.
Yes.
And I may be completely wrong. I was looking at some conflicts. The Afghans that at that time had in World War I, around that era, they had guns, but they didn't have aircraft. So there was a massive superiority of British forces over them at that time.
Right.
Now what's happened is everybody's got guns, everybody's got everything, everybody's got drones, and war becomes very, very difficult and very, very costly. So, China is unlikely to, and I don't know why the Chinese made a move. I don't know, nobody knows why Xi made a move against India in
Galwan.
Yeah, in Galwan, why they started it off. But they got hit.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought that, they just push India, they scare India. And maybe our own psyops work because all of us were saying that we are scared of China, Turned out that we need not have been that scared. So, they have a problem too. It's not easy. It's not easy to put men there. Not easy to fight a war.
See, it's not easy to breathe there.
Yeah, you can't breathe this.
You can't breathe.
Actually, I think I'm happy to say I published a paper on how the Chinese are actually bluffing about their oxygen issues. I took Chinese papers and it was published in the Center for Air Power Studies. Paper came out a couple of months ago, but it's behind a paywall right now. They can't breathe.
They can't breathe.
Not only that, Abhijit, you see, it's like this. You go up about 3,300 meters. You go to 4,000 meters. You can't breathe. Young man, even young fit man can have a problem. Then he has to be evacuated. The treatment is to come down below 3,000.
That's the only treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So supposing you're up in the mountains on the Indian side. Where is down? Where is below 3,000 meters? 100 kilometers away.
Yes.
Okay, you come down. But the Chinese,
nowhere.
You got to go 2,000 kilometers.
Exactly.
Before you get low altitude. There is no low altitude.
Plateau,
yeah. So the kind of treatments they're trying is totally weird. Yeah. So they do have a problem. And I'm happy to see better knowledge coming up, but still you have too many people who look at a 1 in 50 million map and they look at the Chinese road and say, "Itna nazdik hai, itna." That road actually, if you look at it, you measure it on Google Earth, it will be 100 kilometers away. But no, they do have roads. I'm not saying they don't have roads near the border, but they have a problem too. So my personal feeling is it would be a mistake. See, one can never predict war, but they would have to, it's not going to be easy at all. That body of water is an issue, even though it seems very, again on the map.
That much, yeah.
It's only that much, but it's not going to be easy at all. And again, the Chinese have made many enemies, too many enemies. And it's a funny thing, the thing is, we grow up thinking that this is now a modern world of everybody friendly, put the carnation behind the ear, kumbaya, my love. It's not like that. there are so many racist and other, there's Islamism on one side, hate all kafirs, kill the, they're saying it in Europe, they're saying it in India, okay, and this side the Chinese think that they are superior to everybody else. Kya ho raha hai? So, all these ancient biases are not ancient at all, they're still very much there.
They're still very much alive, huh?
Yeah. But whether it will spill over into actual major conflict between two major nations, I don't know. US can do a lot of damage to China.
Oh, they can. They can.
Yeah, on that side. And, here we may not be able to do that much damage to central China, but we can, at the border we will prevail as things stand. I don't think it's a problem.
Do you think India is capable of taking back some parts of Tibet, if need be? Let's say hypothetically there's a war. Do you think we are capable of taking back some chunks of Tibet as a punitive measure?
Significant chunks, no. Maybe small bits of territory.
Small bits. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think significant chunks are easy to take and hold. We will make some advances, get some tactical advantages. Mm-hmm. But I seriously doubt it. The terrain is such and our communication is such that you got to go up and you can hold it. And China also would be hard pressed to actually push us out from those. There are some flat areas which we can get. Of course, everything is flat. Access is there. They are also strong in those areas. I'm talking about Depsang, Demchok, that area, north of Sikkim. There are definitely areas where we can do things, and we are strong. Also, Chumbi Valley, near Doklam, that area. So there are areas where we could perhaps a couple of other areas. But they too, with the kind of road building we've been doing, it's a very good thing.
We have been catching up, haven't we?
And the funny thing is, our reports are always saying Chinese is building, Chinese building, Chinese building. The point is, we are also building.
Yes.
And you have these self-flagellating things that we are always reactive, China is reacting to us.
Right now, the Chinese are reacting.
The Chinese are reacting to us. Suddenly, they've realized that their airfields are a problem, their roads are a problem, this is a problem, communication is a problem. They're also reacting. We're not weak, but nobody wants war. Nobody wants war,
yes. But what do you think is the long-term solution to the India-China border issue? Do you see this boundary issue being resolved sometime in the next decade, let's say?
No, I don't see it.
The Chinese don't want this to be resolved, right?
They don't want it.
They want to keep India under pressure by keeping the border
Maybe
active.
Xi will have a road accident like Pannu, and then something like that. Yeah.
The Chinese and the Russians have a good thing going right now, a nice modus vivendi.
Yeah.
Do you think the Russians trust the Chinese?
No, I don't think the Russians.
Why do you say so?
Russians are not stupid. They've also had problems with the Chinese around the Ussuri
River, yes.
Yeah, they've had some problems with the Chinese. And the Chinese are also clever that, the Chinese have put pressure on the Russians See, for instance, Russia is friendly with India, and India has helped Russia. But there have been several occasions when the Chinese have put pressure on the Russians to go against India. So Russia also has to have a balancing act for them. I don't know to what extent they can be that friendly. They can be thick, I suppose, but what do you think, if I turn the question around?
The Chinese in recent times have been publishing maps which show Sakhalin and other places with Chinese place names and all that. So they're keeping that issue open. They're reminding the Russians that we still have eyes on this. Yeah. And this is not a closed, the border agreement may have been done, but this is an issue for later. We're keeping our options open. Yeah. So I think that is there. If the Chinese they grow further, they may eventually make a claim on Russian territory. That's there. And they have the Ussuri River history behind them. So I don't think, and we have to remember that the Russians, the Soviets had once decided to nuke China, and the Americans intervened. Nixon and Kissinger intervened and prevented them from doing this. And since they have such a long shared contiguous border, two large powerful nations with a shared border can never be friends. That's how I see it. So I think Russia and China are actually enemies, but currently they are cooperating because they have a bigger enemy outside. If that enemy is subdued, they may go at each other's throats.
Yeah. I think I would tend to agree with what you say. One of the things that the Chinese are doing is use people they put people right at the border. And when you put somebody right at the border, he goes 100 meters ahead. This is what they've been
Salami slicing.
Excuse me. So, what happens is, India has now started reacting to, protecting against that. We've started watching almost every inch of the border. I'm not sure the Russians have the
manpower.
The manpower to do that.
Yes.
And so that would actually allow the Chinese to spread in that area.
North of Manchuria, etc.
Absolutely.
Far East.
Absolutely. It could do that.
Yes.
But the Chinese have made so many enemies. And from what, the thing is, it makes one happy to think about bad things in China. You hear that something is bad in China, you think, are they good, they're going to suffer. So I don't know how far I'm right, but the Chinese have some social issues, economic issues, and obviously demographic issues.
Issues, yes.
So they've not managed to increase their child. You can't turn children on and off. Yeah. So they have certain issues. So it's it's not something I've really thought of. That side between China and Russia. Mm-hmm. This is as far as I can get, thinking that they won't get along. Eventually there'll be something. But China has too many enemies, and we used to think it was Taiwan, and our people were scared of China. But China suddenly realized that India is not actually a pushover. So they're going to have to reserve a lot of forces for this side, and it's not going to be that easy. Geography is, like you said, people have to breathe, people have to eat. Tibet does not have, apart from not having oxygen, Tibet does not produce enough food for more than 3.5 million people.
They have to import it from 2,000 kilometers.
Yeah, they have to import it from there.
Yes.
And the other thing is, they've managed to fill Xinjiang with a lot of Hans. I think it's some 40% or 30%.
Already 40, okay.
No, I may be wrong. Maybe roughly. 20%. Roughly, yeah, it's a double-digit percentage. They haven't reached double digits in Tibet.
Right.
They have, at least in eastern Tibet. In these areas, they haven't reached up. You can't breathe. The Tibetans have a genetic
adaptation.
Thing, which allows them to breathe.
Yes.
So they're now recruiting Tibetans in the army.
Right. Right. How do you see the Afghanistan situation? The Americans precipitously withdrew in 2021. Was it August? And the Taliban obviously has filled the gap. So the Americans took 20 years to transfer power from the Taliban to the Taliban. That's what they did. Yeah. How do you see the situation in Afghanistan right now? Because recently the news came out, Joe Biden blurted out by mistake that the Taliban are cooperating with us. And then Amrullah Saleh, the leader of the Northern Resistance, he recently claimed or made the allegation that the Americans are paying the Taliban $60 million a week as maintenance or whatever. So what do you think is really happening there?
See, they are Islamists, okay, and there is only so far we can take our human rights onto let them be whatever they like. Yeah. Let them be, the women are going to suffer. They're not going to develop that much. As long as they're hostile to Pakistan, it's quite all right, as long as they keep Pakistan. See, traditionally, people to people, obviously Afghanistan has been very, very friendly with India. Yeah. And no matter what the Americans may talk about human rights and women's rights and things like that, the Afghans are not going to bend it. We certainly can't talk about that.
There's no point for us.
We can build schools for them and say that if you're going to put girls in it with burqas or with hijabs or whatever, go ahead. It's your problem. We'll help you with bridges and schools and stuff like that. They do their thing. I think our problem is really access to Afghanistan.
That's the problem.
Yeah, direct access. So the Chabahar route via Iran, if it works, well and good. See, this is our neighborhood, be it Iran or be it the Middle East. We have to maintain good relations with them. We have to do that. Ideology, yes, they're also not bothered. See, fundamentalist Islam, Pakistanis are worse than the Taliban, if you ask me, because they're pretenders. They implement the worst aspects of violent Islam against India, and they pretend that. Whereas the Taliban gets a reputation that Taliban is honest, Pakistanis are dishonest. This is the problem. So we have a problem with Pakistan. So we have to maintain relations with Afghanistan and let them have whatever culture they want. It's their issue.
I think it's a separate country. It's none of our business what they do.
Right,
Let them live their life their own way. You mentioned the lack of access to Afghanistan, which is something we've historically had for thousands of years. It used to be our province, Gandhar. I am known for saying that Pakistan is a temporary nation. Do you see Pakistan as a temporary nation? Do you see it imploding or exploding sometime in the future?
It's possible. It's possible that it will break up. But I still don't think we'll have easy access to Afghanistan. The reason being, Punjab will be hostile. Punjab will be hostile to us. Even if Sindhu Desh were to break away and we were to get, Balochistan and things like that away, the access to Afghanistan is through Pakistani Punjab. That is the easiest access. There is no real easy access.
It's too mountainous, right? Gilgit-Baltistan, all those regions. Very mountainous.
Even the access from India is not good. Historically, people have always gone through this way from Lahore, going north towards Afghanistan.
That's the route that makes sense.
That is the route that makes sense. So, I'm hoping Pakistan will break up. Okay. The way I see it is, if India gets so strong that the current powerful nations on earth, barring China, the US and Europe, start depending on Indian power and Indian economy, that is the time when Pakistan will have to dissolve. For that, we have to play the game very well, develop our economy, reduce our internal dissension. And part of our internal dissension has actually been our relations internally. Okay, so, with, common relations, law and order, economy, and the fact that our people, for decades, this thing has been, let our people live in the villages, let them be poor, that sort of thing. If we develop our economy and become very strong. See, I don't like words like superpower and all that.
Vishwaguru, superpower.
Yeah, I don't like these. There's no point. But once you become a nation that is very wealthy, is a generator of goodwill and wealth, and is strong enough to hold against, you automatically become a superpower. It's not something that's given as a gift. Ye le lo, you abhi tu superpower ho. It's not like that. Okay, so we will go that way. We are right now one of the most powerful nations, but we have to go over and beyond Pakistan so far that they have no chance. That nation is not going anywhere. Pakistan is not going anywhere. It's in bad shape. The military are not doing anything. The military are holding, the military in Pakistan, they say that they are protectors of Pakistan and Islam. Pakistan is Islam. We protect Pakistan. Therefore, we protect Islam.
Okay.
The biggest danger to Pakistan is India. Therefore, India is the biggest danger to Islam.
Okay, that's a logic.
Yeah. So that is how the Pakistani army looks after itself. Gradually, that is going. For the first time this year, this has happened. If the Pakistan army goes, then there's a good chance that Pakistan will, get into some kind of civil war. And the thing is, nobody seems to want it. Or even a lot of people in India don't want that. They don't want that. Well, certainly the US and the West don't want it. See, we have been, I don't want to use rude expressions, but for years we have been saying, oh, Pakistan is going to get on the IMF blacklist. Blacklist aa jayega. Even now, IMF has given one more bailout.
Yeah, just now. 3 billion, sorry.
Yeah, 3 billion bailout. So
that's right. So they keep on propping up Pakistan.
Yeah, they
won't let it fail.
Yeah. See, the only way to get over that is India to become too powerful. When a country becomes too powerful that other people can't stop it, no matter what they... See, we have done well. Despite Chinese help and despite American help, we've grown this much and become this powerful. But we need to go an order of magnitude higher. 80s, when I was in the UK, the average Briton was 36 times as productive as one Indian in terms of GDP.
Okay.
Obviously, our GDP is higher. Still, the average Briton is more productive than the average
per capita. Yes.
We got to reach a stage when it no longer matters.
Yes.
It's just we just oof.
That's right.
That is the kind of power we need to get from our economy. So
economic growth is the key.
And the other thing is, I'll tell you one of the problems, and I'm working on that. That's my next book, Mental Colonization of Indians.
That's a huge.
Okay.
And the Aryan Invasion thing is a significant.
It's part of that. Yeah, it's part of the mental colonization. See, we have such a low opinion of ourselves that the minute some Indians see something good happening in India, they'll compare with something else, say, oh, those fellows. See, you make, supposing, as an example, and this is not like Modi support or anything like that. You have one high-speed line between whatever, Mumbai and Ahmedabad or something. Oh, but the Chinese have got 35,000 kilometers. What is this? So, self-flagellation. Don't insult master. Don't insult my master. In this case, master is China. In some other case, master is Europe.
Yeah.
So, we are scared to, be proud of ourselves in any way. We're always cursing ourselves. Shh, don't say that, master may punish you. So there is a problem we have about mental colonization.
Mental colonization. What do you think is the root cause of mental colonization?
We've been beaten down as a society. Beaten down. See, when I was young, everything about India was cursed as bad. Dirty people, poor people, they don't wear slippers, they don't work, they're lazy. And this education and admiration of anything from the West.
Yes.
I go, you find school children wearing ties. This is a hot country. Why are you wearing a tie? We don't realize, because that is our ideal. That is what is smart. That's what
a civilized person does.
And yesterday on Twitter, I got into a little. It's not a controversy. See, there was a guy, some person, can't recall his name, who said that Gurugram. Yeah, he has written Gurgaon. Gurugram is like some Switzerland without chocolates, something New York without infrastructure, Las Vegas without drainage. He's put a list of cities and saying all certain good things those foreign cities have, which Gurgaon does not have.
Okay.
See, this is, according to me, needless self-flagellation.
Completely unnecessary.
Yeah. And the other thing, the funny thing here is, this is a kind of communication between us, the English-speaking elite. See, if I say Mississippi to you, you'll understand. If you say some Phoenix, I'll tell you Arizona. Okay, so we are. Whereas you look at my driver, our gardener, you look at all these people, they are on a completely different level.
Yes.
Soon after 9/11, I had a group of people from England who were visiting, and we went to Bangalore Club for dinner. And all of us had somebody who was there in New York or was in the Twin Towers at that time.
Okay.
All of us. But you look at the waiters, the servers, and the cleaners, they had no connection. So we have developed a social class based on our English education.
Yes.
Which puts us on a different level, and we look down with contempt. Arey, kya bol raha hai? This fellow, Narendra Modi is also looked at like Busi, he said, apparently, for busy.
Okay.
So, this is, it's ridiculous.
Right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So it should not be like that. So I'm working on it right now. I'm collecting a lot of material. So let's see. It may take another 6-7 years before I finish writing about it. Yeah.
Do you think the education system is largely responsible for the mental colonization?
The education system is gone. It's broken.
It's broken.
It's definitely broken. Because, the British gave us the education system only to create clerks out of us.
Exactly. Clerks and peons.
Yeah.
Sheep.
Yeah.
Not leaders.
Yeah, we're still continuing with that. And, the way they worked it is the British would give us government jobs, which had pension, and people could make a little extra. Even now, people are looking for those same government jobs.
Yes, we haven't changed.
We haven't changed.
Yes.
So the education system needs fixing. It needs a lot of work.
What changes would you like to see? Is it possible to change it, or do we need to throw it out entirely and create a new system?
I think throwing it out entirely, that's a good question, a very good question. I had not thought about it that way. See, there are certain things which I thought would never happen, and I've mentioned them.
Yes.
Like building toilets, not so much demonetization, but, the digital economy and things like that. Okay. So it may be, the other thing that has come up is the government. See, I have, obviously being a doctor, now retired, I've had some very strong views about the kind of medical education there is and which way it's going. The government has been very strong and said that, no, you put Ayurveda, put everything together. A lot of my doctor colleagues are very upset.
Okay.
But the medical healthcare system is broken. And it's not just broken in India, it's broken in the US.
Yes.
See, allopathic medicine is too expensive for any country to give healthcare to, any big country. Small European countries, somehow they are rich.
Boutique countries like Switzerland.
Boutique. Excellent, yeah. Boutique countries, they can manage it. But huge countries, US can't manage it to give healthcare to all its people.
Yes.
And they've got what, 1/3, 1/4 of our population?
A fourth, yeah.
We cannot give allopathic treatment to it. Is too expensive, and it is closely tied up to pharma, industry, and things like and technology. It's too closely. Doctors only become slaves. So, the government has said, okay, and I have myself noticed, a lot of patients, they'll come last to the allopath. They'll say, sir, I tried homeopathy, I tried Ayurveda. Ayurveda is still very deep in our country. So the healthcare system is undergoing a change. So it may be possible that they'll just, change the education system. But currently, I'm not seeing any moves in that direction.
There's a new education policy that's out there, apparently.
I haven't looked at it.
Neither have I. That's why I was wondering if you have.
Yeah. No, I haven't looked at it. The only hope I see, since my wife has been an educator, is that, use of social media and things like that to sort of get everybody into one particular type. I see hope that way. Whether a central policy will work, I don't know.
As a physician, what's your opinion about Ayurveda?
Yeah, see, Ayurveda sees the forest, sees the entire forest, and does not necessarily bother about individual trees, and treats the whole in order to. Allopathy, and you brought up a very interesting question. I'll keep on digressing, but let me stick to medicine first. Allopathy is Western science, it's reductionism.
Yeah.
And reductionism is like smashing a watch to look at its part to see how a watch works.
Yes.
So what happens is, in allopathy is extraordinarily good for certain things. Mechanical things, broken bones, knees, hernias, blocked arteries, extremely good. Infections, kill the bacteria, kill the virus. Very good, allopathy. Okay. Preventive medicine, investigation, look inside, extremely good. After doing all this at fairly high expense, and the hand is chopped off, replant the hand. We're extremely good at these things. But after doing all this, there's still about 60-70% of the population who've got some doctor pain here, something there, something is happening inside. They're patients. They've got a complaint.
Yes.
Now, what happens in allopathy is, they'll get investigated, they'll find nothing.
Yes.
And say, there's nothing, you're well. I got a complaint here, you're well. See, this is what happens. Whereas Ayurveda actually looks at this, does something, gives something. Ayurveda has value. Ayurveda definitely has value. Unfortunately, Ayurveda is becoming copycat of allopathy. You're getting this in some places.
I see.
Yeah, you're getting Ayurvedic clinics, nice air conditioned, and you have the girl in a skirt at reception and all that is happening.
Okay.
Yeah. But the Ayurvedic tradition must be maintained and continued. It is essential. And you know what, Abhijit, I'll tell you, the medical education I had made me ready for America. Even today, you do your MBBS, you're nothing. Because we have killed general practitioners. You have to do a post-graduation. When you do a post-graduation, you're only ready for America. You can't work. You go 50 kilometers out of Bangalore. You don't have general physicians, general surgeons. You can't work because you need machines.
Right.
You need machines. They can't do it. What are you going to do? So we need a class of doctor who can work there. And unfortunately, see, my generation, like I told you, those same days, instead of studying in the library, I would sit outside the library, read about Vietnam War in Time magazine. And same Time magazine, I would turn the page and I would see doctors are the wealthiest group in America. So I say, America jana hai. We must become wealthy.
Yes.
It's not going to work. See, doctors actually should be well paid. They should not be wanting.
Yeah.
But they should not be filthy rich.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my feeling. This is blasphemy. Some people will disagree with me. But, if you have doctors wanting, they will cheat. Now, what we are doing is we are dumping doctors on the ground. We are dumping thousands and thousands of doctors. Many of them who won't get good jobs, they'll go out of medicine, or they'll have to find some way of charging more.
Okay.
This is the wrong way. Our country is heading in the wrong direction as well. The country is going to suffer in terms of medicine, healthcare. We are not going the right way.
So what's the right thing to do? What's the right approach?
I feel we should have a proper pyramid. Some things are happening. Yes, bringing in Ayurveds, yes, I agree. Bring it in. About homeopathy and Unani. Now, unfortunately, allopathy has only contempt for all these systems. We are taught contempt. It's useless. So they're also coming in. So there's going to be some hostility for getting them in. The other thing is, in the UK, it was a pyramidal system. The specialist on top, the generalist below that, the general practitioner. Then you had radiologists, nurses, community nurses. So you need to have skilled people on the ground. A very large number of skilled people who are not necessarily doctors as such,
right?
But who can
professionals
who can deliver healthcare. Healthcare deliverers. So you have ambulance men who are trained. You have a delivery in 2 days. Here, after delivery 1 week, at least that was the tradition. You say there 2 days, chalo. Ghar jao.
Okay.
Then the nurse comes and does the postnatal checkup.
Okay.
There is a community nurse. So we need to expand the number of people. We need to make them respectable. Here, doctor banai, doctor, everybody wants to become doctor. You become a doctor, what do? You can't really deliver healthcare. So this is the problem that's going on now. See, the other thing is, in Bangalore, you find that, in specialist hospitals, you'll find that there are 3 or 4 liver transplant surgeons.
Okay. How
many liver transplants? They may do 1 liver transplant in a year.
In a year, right?
Yeah. And America, of course, America is very clever. For a certain sum of money, they'll get a guy, 2 years they'll train him in liver transplantation, and they say, thank you, go back. He won't get a permanent job. He's come for the training. So you have the poor guy, because he doesn't have work. He goes there, gets trained, comes and sits here. What does he do?
Right.
Aisa hai.
So that's how they're making money. Training people to do things that are not really needed.
I mean, see, it's a cafeteria. If you need it, you get training. They are not interested in India's healthcare system.
Yeah, they don't care.
They are only interested in training this guy. That's all. He's paying for it, so he gets the training.
Right. right, indeed. How well prepared do you think the world is for the next pandemic, if there is one? Do you think new pandemics will come up?
This question has actually worried me. Last pandemic was 2018. Pandemics don't occur that often. They occur once in a... So, in the past, pandemics were chance. Now, pandemics are being created. And I'm frightened in the way people are talking about next pandemic, because there are people creating viruses.
That's why the question arises.
That is the problem. And world is not prepared. World is not prepared. If somebody creates, this is something that I had not thought of. And I am almost certain that this COVID was created in a lab. And they're doing that. And I think, companies like Pfizer and all are actually actively involved in, there's a word for it, it's gain of function.
Yeah, gain of function.
Yeah, gain of function.
Gain of function research.
Yeah, what happens is, you have a molecule. In the old days when I was training, molecules and atoms were little things which you could not see. Now they can actually access them, see them, know the exact structure, mimic the structure. So you find a virus, there is a virus or a drug, and there is a receptor. It's a lock and key. There is a receptor, the virus goes and sits there, or the drug goes and sits. You can model that. You can model what sits in that area on computer, on a supercomputer. So there are people doing these things. And world is definitely not prepared for the next. Prepared for the next pandemic may actually be a euphemism for, this is the pandemic we're going to have and this is the vaccine we have for it.
Yeah, right.
This is exactly what they had for COVID. They knew that it was going to happen. There's going to be a vaccine. They already had a vaccine. Vaccine didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
And the thing,
It's alleged that the Pfizer vaccine has killed more people than it saved.
Yeah, correct.
That's what is being alleged.
Yeah. Some friends of mine also died mysteriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's been a real tragedy, especially in the West. How many people died?
Yeah, correct.
And people are still dying.
Yeah.
Yes,
people are still dying.
People are still dying.
I had a very good friend, a physician in Florida, who just came and died. He came to Chennai to visit his father and died in his sleep.
Oh.
He had no reason, absolutely no reason to die. Yeah.
Right. That's been a tragedy. Let's talk about the Aryan invasion myth.
My favorite.
That's the thing that we initially connected over. So, obviously you've written a book. Have you been keeping pace with the research that's happening, the genetic research and all that? Have you seen some new developments?
See, I think genetics is completely pointless.
Right? But that's where everyone's focusing right now.
Yeah. See, as I mentioned, people are saying that there was migration, and migration is shown by genetics. Since there was migration, there was an Aryan invasion. But that is the problem. How do you know it was Aryan? Genes and have no connection with language. You have a person from Andhra Pradesh who goes to the US. Okay, and he has children. They will die of old age or whatever. You take out their bones and they look at their genes, there will be no Telugu or anything written on them.
Yes.
There is no connection between language. So you can have thousands of migrations, but the word Aryan was cooked up.
Yes.
The word Aryan was cooked up from the word Arya. In the Veda. They just added an N. And I keep repeating this. You can't add an N to, for instance, I say it once again. You have the word Sundari. Sundari means beautiful woman. If you add an N and say Sundarian, it doesn't become a race of beautiful women. So you have Arya. Arya in the Veda was, just like in a society, you may have carpenters, you may have doctors, you may have painters, you have cooks. So you have different classes of people.
Division of labor.
Arya were a certain group of people who were following Vedic rituals. So there were others who were called Anarya. Even the word Dasya was used for Anarya, Anindra, those who did not worship Indra. Anarya, those who were not Aryas. But they were all part of society. It was not a race of Aryan. Hum sab Aryan hai. It was not like that. But, and the other thing is, part of our mental colonization is to think that, the Europeans, they have no sense of pride and all, jingoism. It's not true. Basically, this whole business of when they found Sanskrit, they were very impressed. But why were they impressed? The problem is before that, these Assyriologists, in Europe it was Christianity. They didn't like Jews that much, even back then. Okay? Then they came to Syria, Turkey, Syria, Iraq, that area, and they found these fantastic ruins. And all these ruins were corresponded with all the stories in the Old Testament. And they thought, this is there. I've got it. The books are there. I'm not guessing. And I'm just making drama. That's all. How come these damn Jews, these Semites, have an older history than us? Simultaneously, guys came to India. They found Sanskrit, and they found this fantastic link between Sanskrit and the European languages. Then they said, this is our history. This is much older than that. This is our history. And they found the name Arya and said, we are Aryans. And slowly, and in fact, initially they thought that these are our people, these guys. And slowly say, ye sab kale hain. These Kalu guys, how can it be like that? So then they slowly started taking origin of language towards Europe. They first said, Sweden and all they took. Then slowly they came towards steppe area came later. In the meantime, how did these fellows become black? And I've got quotes. I got the book at home also. The quote, this is these bloody Dravidians, black fellows. They were all heathen masses. The actual word used in the book is masses of black heathendom.
Good God.
The masses of black heathendom intermingled with the pure Aryas and made them black. So that, okay. So the best part is we have swallowed this story.
We have internalized it.
We have internalized the story. There's some people say, Arya, I am an Aryan. They say, I am a Dravidian. You colonized me. We've made political parties out of that.
Indeed,
And the other thing is, I use the example of medicine. Now, I told you that Ayurveda looks at everything as a whole, whereas there is reductionism in the Western science. So in Western science, what happens is you can have an artificial heart, you can have an artificial lung, you can have an artificial joint. You can put all these artificial things together, but you'll never get a human being. The human being is separate. Here in India, you have a society that gets along. They have languages that are very old that have intermingled. We have the South Indian languages and the North Indian language. I don't call them, they're all Sanskrit-based languages. They all intermingled for thousands of years. These fellows came and did reductionism and said, this is Aryan, this is Dravidian. We believe that reductionism now. Now we believe in that separation. And they said that these are the links between Indo-European languages, the Punjabi, the Bengali, and all. Actually, I've written a paper, it's online. I use the same method used by linguists, a same method called lexicostatistics, to compare Indian languages the southern Indian languages, northern Indian languages, and European languages. Actually, if you look at lexicostatistics, the links between southern Indian and northern Indian languages are closer than the links with that. But still, Indo-European, PIE, we are so colonized. When white man says something, we say, yes, Masa, you must be right. This is our problem. This is part of our colonization. They come and do reductionism. They say, you are Aryan, you are Dravidian. This is Indo-European. This is Dravidian language. They come and say that, we believe it. Now, you can't join these. You can't join all Aryan and Dravidian and get an India. You can't join the Indo-European and so-called Dravidian languages and get the India. India whole is separate. Just like you can't have artificial heart this and make this. This is a sort of division they have created, and we have agreed to those divisions because of sheer mental slavery to what white man says.
And we teach this in our schools and colleges.
We have been beaten down. Yes. We've been beaten down.
And so little kids grow up believing this, and then if you tell them this is wrong, they'll not believe you, because this is what our teachers said. This is what we've internalized.
Yeah, and I saw the thing is, a lot of non-Indians, including Bangladeshis, Bangladeshis, Africans, and I recently saw a paper from Egypt or something like that. They've realized. In fact, I have a very interesting paper I was reading about the Western university system itself is based on the superiority of Europe over the other guys. When you enter that university system, you automatically learn the superiority of Europe over other people. And this mental colonization, I have found more papers coming from Africa and even Bangladesh, and almost nothing from India. I'm hoping to write one, at least something, an early thing in that direction.
Right. I look forward to that. I've seen that even the Persians, our Iranian neighbors, they believe in the Aryan Invasion Theory. They also have the same issue.
I know the worst part is even Parsis believe it, Zoroastrians.
Okay.
Do you know when the name Iran came? How the name Iran came?
I'm sure it's a more recent name.
It's a very recent name.
Yeah.
It was one of the Nazi generals who convinced the then Shah of Iran to change the name to Iran to make it big. Actually, they were always known as Persia.
Yeah, yes.
Persia. So, Zoroastrians have a very close link with, in fact, the Zoroastrian holy book, what is called as the Zend Avesta, and the Atharva Veda are very close. They're almost common passages, actual common passages. The only thing is, the Zend Avesta mentions Rigvedic deities, but the opposite is not true. That to saying that the Atharva Veda is older. And if you look at the date of Zend, if you look at the Western dates of Zend Avesta around 1000 BC and Atharva Veda a little earlier, you already get the Rig Veda and all going off by all. But the clincher as far as language is concerned is literally the Saraswati River. There are so many proofs for that. And we're, obviously the history goes back for much longer, much older. In my book, I put it as around 5000 BCE. But then you have other authors who say it's, for instance, even David Frawley. David Frawley has come up with dates from the texts that go as far back as 6000.
Okay.
And if you look at other people like Nilesh Oak and Rupa Pati, they go back even earlier, 12,000, 20,000.
Based on archaeoastronomy.
Based on archaeoastronomy.
What's your opinion about It's a huge fight that's happening between various people who've come up with various dates. What is your opinion about archaeoastronomy? Obviously, if you get the translations right, you're going to get the dates right. Is it about everybody has a different interpretation of the translations? It's
a topic that I don't understand myself. I only have basic knowledge. If I went to a Lit Fest, just 3-4 days ago, I was in a Mysore Lit Fest, and Vivek Debroy spoke. Very good. Vivek Debroy has done a lot of scholarly work.
Absolutely.
He's written so much, And he, of course, he doesn't subscribe. He says archaeoastronomy can only go so far because, some people used to follow lunar calendar, some people used to follow solar calendar. So, I don't. But, where I disagree with him is like this. Ultimately, when you look at the Earth's precession, which because the precession, you find the North Star pointing at the North Star being some other star. there is a 24,000 year cycle.
Yeah.
So when you go back about 3, 4, 5,000 years, the North Star is some other star. There are records of that some other star. How would anybody know that the some other star is the North Star?
North Star, yes.
That is what is the clincher for ancient dates. It is a clincher with a, what shall I say, accuracy of several thousand years. But probably not for a single date like 5th August or something.
Yeah, that won't work. Yeah.
So to that extent, I think archaeoastronomy is very useful. It does help you date something, because these are clinchers. How would you know? How you if you have a clear sky, you observe it. You know one thing is the North Star. You live how long? Maybe you live 100 years. Then you tell people, but this is, people have to keep observing it over generations.
Yes, or millennia. Actually.
And then millennia, and then you have to. This is another topic that fascinates me, how everything has been transmitted orally.
Yes.
Because, books, rock carvings, not much information, may last 3,000 years. Books, maximum 300-400 years. Our CDs and digital may not last even 1 century. We don't know.
Yeah.
It's the narratives that, and you've probably read this book by Alex Healy, Roots.
Yes.
See, this guy was a black guy who was descended from some slaves, and they used to have a traditional sort of song,
yes,
which was a narrative. And in that song, it went all the way back to Africa. He used that song, the chants, to reconnect. Yeah. So narratives are very important. We have such great narratives. And when our very ancient narrative says that this is not the pole star, that was the pole star, and some other book says the pole star was that, we were really looking back. And I'm not talking controversial, the people who have any controversy. I'm talking about David Frawley, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and that there is a German guy, Jacobi. Yeah. So you have all these other people as well, plus a few others whose names I don't remember. But definitely archaeoastronomy does show a very, very ancient history.
So why do you think all these various researchers are coming up with such widely diverging dates?
In medicine, there is when you have a particular disease for which you have multiple treatments or multiple theories, it means that everything is not fully known, but people are coming up with various theories, they're actually studying it. So, this is a thing that cannot be pinpointed easily. Let everyone come up with their theories.
Yes.
They're all right. Nobody is agreeing with this Aryan invasion date of 1000. Everybody knows it's earlier. Yes. It's only a question of pinpointing which one it is and what are the reasons. So good, let it bloom. Let as Mao said, let 100 flowers or 1,000 flowers bloom.
1,000 flowers bloom.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
What do you think of this Proto-Indo-European language that they have reconstructed?
Of course, it's bunkum. It's reconstructed. There's no such language.
But is there a very heavy bias on studying European languages and deriving words?
See, I'll tell you what I feel. See, the thing is, they don't want to get into the Sanskrit controversy anymore. They don't want Sanskrit to be mother language, even if it is the oldest language, which it is.
Yeah.
We have reasons for that. They have said, we have decided that this is our mother language, and our mother language is PIE. This is our theory. We are going to accept that. That's all. It is a tool. It's a tool. That's all. So the problem is Indians are jumping, and some of us believe in PIE, some of us don't. Actually, you can explain. I had in my book, I had postulated possibility of a language that I called Matamahi Bhasha, grandmother language. So you had Matamahi Bhasha centered around India. Matamahi Bhasha broke into 2 branches. One branch became Sanskrit, another branch became Proto-European and went to Europe. It could be like that also.
Yes.
Nobody is going to accept it. I'm saying it. But, it's Proto-European. Proto-European can be their PIE. They can keep it. They can do what they like with it. We should not be looking at the Europeans. There are similarities. Agreed. I also have a nose, I have eyes. I'm like a European. Okay. Similarities are there. But our history is different. We should stick to our past and go into our past and forget about what they're saying. Problem is, we study in English, Nobody knows Sanskrit. Nobody knows even local languages. When we want to read anything academic, we look at
the English translation, right?
Same, even with defense, when you look at military issues, somebody look at a YouTube video, you know what the Americans did? The Americans kuch kiya, they say, "Arey, Indian army doesn't know how to do that. This is how they do it." So, we are so colonized. We look at what they, because the thing is, the space of information in English is filled by the Anglosphere.
Absolutely.
Which is, mainly US now, then UK and all that. And since we speak English, we get access to Anglosphere first.
Yes. That's right.
And we have no connection with us. This needs to change. We need to go for our information first.
Yes, I agree.
Sorry, I hope I'm not talking to. For instance, one of my cousin's friends, this goes back many years, in Germany, he was working, this software guy. They told him, you have cancer and untreatable. Go. He had tuberculosis. Cancer and tuberculosis can be confused in certain countries.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. The other relative of mine, his son, actually my cousin's son in America, he got infectious jaundice. He had come to India, he got hepatitis A. He went to US, his bilirubin, his jaundice levels were very high. The doctors there got scared. They said, you got liver failure, you need a transplant. It was jaundice that all our people used to get here. In the old days, I don't know whether you've got it. Everybody used to go through an episode of jaundice, it would become okay.
I see.
It's called hepatitis A, infectious hepatitis. Because nowadays there are vaccinations, kids get vaccinated, so nobody gets it. This guy got it, that's also.
I see.
Yeah.
What do you think of the decipherment of the Indus script? Do you think there is a concerted effort to not decipher it?
Nobody knows. Everybody is reaching out in the dark. I don't know. I don't see. There's a lady. What is her name? I've forgotten her name. She's done a very interesting sort of decipherment of that. But then, like her, so many others have done decipherment. And somebody says it is. First of all, I get irritated with the word Dravidian language. Yeah. Dravida was a geographic expression.
Yes.
Okay, it was a geographic expression of Gurjara, Maratha, Karnata, Dramila and Telinga. Okay, so it was geographic where three, seas meet. And it was never a language expression. I get irritated with that. And they're saying it was a Dravidian language and then it fits into this already colonized expression of Dravidian. I don't think, frankly, I don't think about Indus script at all. I don't think anybody has figured it out yet.
Okay.
And it is even more vague than archaeoastronomical, which is quite esoteric, but at least something is known about astronomy. Nobody knows anything. But what we do know is that, if you leave out the script is useful in showing where this influence reached. They found it in Tamil Nadu, they found it in Israel, they found it in Syria. They found it in a lot of places. This shows the extent to which the civilization had something in common.
Right.
Whatever it was, whatever it means. So, yeah.
We see very similar symbols in the south as well, don't we?
Yes, they found it in Tamil Nadu recently. They found it in one place in Tamil Nadu.
I see. So what are they calling it? There is a certain variant of Brahmi apparently that they call Tamil Brahmi.
That is much later.
Yeah, I know, it's much later.
That's it. Apparently, Tamil Brahmi was the source of the Brahmi that came up later. This is what. See, I have this friend who is who's very good in this sort of thing. So he's the person to ask.
Right.
I would ask him.
Right. The thing is, if the Indus
Bimal Trivedi, that's his name.
Trivedi. Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
The thing is, if the script is deciphered once and for all, then the entire story will be put to rest, right? Whether it's Sanskrit or whether it's some other language, and maybe that's what they don't want, perhaps.
With the number of symbols that are there, I'm not totally convinced that we'll get.
We don't have enough symbols, right?
Yeah. I'm not convinced that it's a full language. See, the assumption is that these fellows were just writing on pots and this thing. They may have been trade symbols or something.
Heraldic signs.
Yeah, heraldic signs, trade symbols, something like that. Okay. So the actual writing, if at all, may have been on palm leaves or something else, which got destroyed. So these may have been just, like you said. So there is no proof that, obviously these people are very scientific, very aware of this sort of thing and not warlike at all. There was no, it was a period of peace.
Yes.
Probably after the Mahabharata war when all the Kshatriya princes were just removed. So it may have been that period that this was there. So I'm not sure that it will give us anything. See, this will only create. We have to go with what we have.
Yeah, of course.
What we have now is the archaeological findings over there and some symbols about which we know nothing yet. This is all
You mentioned there was no war. So I believe the Mesopotamians or Assyrians, they used to call India Meluha at the time. That's what is believed.
I've heard about that.
Yeah. So that apparently is the term they use for what we call the Indus Valley era, the Harappan era.
Yeah, correct.
And there is a record of a king called Rimush, who was the son of Sargon of Akkad, who went to war with Meluha. He went to war with Marhashi, which is Eastern Iran.
Okay.
And the Eastern Iranians, Marhashi guys, had allies in Meluha, and Meluha sent an army to help them out.
Yeah. Some of these things are very vague. For instance, a lot of ancient descriptions of India ended the Indus. And you have these people who came up to the Indus and said, we've conquered India.
Yes.
They've not gone anywhere beyond. So this is slightly out of syllabus for me. It's not this thing. But what I do know is, there was an earlier period from Eastern Europe, and there are actually genetic connections between Eastern Europe and India, who recognized India as it was called, I forget that name, but anyway, a land where you have 2 crops a year and things like that, sun all year round and things like that. So,
right. Do you think the question of the original homeland of the Indo-Europeans will ever be addressed? Do you think we will ever discover the original homeland? I mean, isn't the original homeland Africa?
I don't know who Indo-Europeans are. Okay. Yeah. The word Indo-European was cooked up only to make a connection between India and Europe. And the reason for making connection between India and Europe was Sanskrit was found in India. That is the only reason. So there is no such thing as Indo-European as such. Okay. Yeah, as per, I've read 2 things. All my life, I've heard that the earliest humans were in Africa.
That's the best evidence.
And that the genetic, signatures of Africans are the earliest in the world. But more recently, I've heard of genetic signatures in India that are very old. So I have not been looking at the details. There is nowadays a tendency. It's an esoteric subject. It's abstruse, this genetics. And people like to talk about it, and sometimes very little information is known, and after 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, a lot more is known, and it goes in a different direction. And even geneticists are very, because it's involved with history, with people's history, they are very quick to reach conclusions and things like that. So yeah, I think things are still vague as things stand. I wouldn't reach any conclusions with, we have very ancient populations. All I will say is, we've had, these, in Maharashtra, they found these petroglyphs.
12,000, 15,000 years old.
12,000 is the date that has been given. But, there's a rhino there.
A rhino, right?
Rhino kidhar se hai? And then, apart from that, in the caves in Madhya Pradesh, there's a giraffe.
Yes.
So, here we are talking at dates that go back 35,000, 40,000 years.
They even found ostrich shells.
Yeah, that's right. So, So, the evidence we have is that it has to go back at least 35,000 years or 40,000 years. They've also found human tools beneath the layer of that massive
Toba eruption.
Toba eruption 70,000 years ago.
Yes.
So, we know very little, and our minds have been clouded by saying that human civilization started in 4004 BC. We need to open our minds and go back and trust ourselves, trust our, our own ancient narratives. People are not stupid, actually.
The Aryan Invasion myth has been mainly addressed by non-historians, people from the fields of science, etc. Why aren't...
No. It's been addressed only by linguists.
By linguists?
It's been addressed by philologists or historical linguists. It's been addressed by historical linguists because, language was very important for them. Language means nation. French for France, Portugal, Portuguese, England, English. So language was a big thing. And when they found what looked like mother language, they thought Sanskrit was mother language initially, but they went, all these books are there in books, the research is there. I've put the references in my book. basically they initially thought Sanskrit is the mother language. Then they didn't like it,
They didn't like it.
They were pure racists. They were pure racist expressions in their scientific books. So they gradually moved it away. See, as you probably know, scientific research works like this. Supposing I'm researching something. I research some X topic. And there is some other topic that I want to refer to in relation to that. I have to look at scientific journals.
Yes.
What if the scientific journals cite? I have to say that.
Yeah.
Now, what's happened is genetics people have looked at migrations. And when they look at their journals, they find what the linguists have written. Linguists have had absolutely no responsibility. The best part of a linguist is if you're an engineer, you got to be responsible. You can't build, it might crash. If you're a doctor, you'll be killing people.
Yes.
So you got to be, linguists can make up anything they like. They made it up 200 years
ago. So
ago.
Linguistics is not a science. It's not a scientific discipline at all.
Nothing scientific about it.
That's what people don't understand.
The only scientific, probably Panini's linguistics was the most scientific. See, people don't understand one thing. Some of the biggest areas of the brain which require fine movement. See, you can't sing unless your vocal cords just move the right amount. You can't speak unless your tongue has good control.
Yes.
Okay. You look at our alphabet. Ka, kha, ka, cha, ta, ta, pa.
Yes.
Ka at the back. Cha. Behind the
progress is forward, isn't it?
Forward. Ta, palatal.
Ta.
Teeth. Pa. Lingual. It's our alphabet that's been there for so long. Ka, cha, ta, ta, pa. It's been defined. See, this is related to neurolinguistics. These fellows learned it from us. They learned grammar from us. But otherwise, what they wrote was utter nonsense. They made up stuff. It's clear. You can see how they've made it up.
I think that rules of linguistics are arrived at by consensus among a small group of people.
and their biases. There are papers that describe that also. It's brought up by biases. Actually by biases. I think it should be like this. I don't think, if those people had been there, they are unlikely to have gone towards India. They're more likely to have come here. So they must have gone. Literally, this linguistics.
That's the kind of assumption. Yeah.
Historical linguistics is full of that. And once it was set in stone, once it's in the books, now the geneticist wants to look at a paper, he looks at that guy. He says, Usne bola udhar se aaya. Yeah, see, how does PIE or whatever language they come? You have to cook up 3 languages to make it come to India. First, you cook up PIE and say it was there.
Yes.
It was not existing. Then you say there was a Proto-Indo-Iranian.
Proto-Indo-Iranian, that's right.
Okay. So you cook up Proto-Indo-Iranian. Then you say Proto-Indo-Iranian became Avestan. There is no such thing as Avestan.
Yes.
But Avestan is a subject that's taught in Western universities. You have to learn it. It's a different language. Actually, you look at Zoroastrian texts, there's a very close link between Sanskrit and...
it's evident to anybody who reads that. Yes.
But, I'm an Indian, brown color. I'm saying it. How can I be right? This fellow is a bloody Sanghi. This Shiv Sastry, look at his name. He's a Sanghi. He's, yeah. He obviously a Sanghi. He's President Modi and all over here. So, Indians are not going to believe it. They'll say, oh, Richard Reich has said it. Mallory says this fellow says that. Chavda, what can you do? This we have to get out of.
Yes.
We have to get out of that.
This inferiority complex.
Yeah. Inferiority complex and not believing any Indian, if he says something.
Yeah. Yeah. The linguistics thing, do you think India needs to approach its linguistics a priori? I mean, forget about what the Westerners have said. We have our own language families which are very closely related. Do we need to start re-examining the entire basis of our linguistics?
We should not copy Western linguistics.
We should not copy, yeah.
It should not be difficult if we all started learning Sanskrit.
But nobody wants to do that.
Yeah,
it's a political thing.
Yeah, it's become political.
Yes.
That is also part of the way of keeping India, because they want to own Sanskrit. See, if you learn Sanskrit, Sanskrit is taken as religious because a lot of Hindu literature has come in Sanskrit.
Yes.
So it becomes political. I think we have to force it down, with pride and say this, because Sanskrit is the basis for a lot of our languages.
Yes.
Tamil also. But the connections between Tamil and South Indian language and Sanskrit is also very deep. There is ironically, it is a Western linguist who's written a book that I've actually got now, who's pointed out some of the deepest connections.
Okay.
Yeah. So, this is how it is. Yes, we do need to approach linguistics, and you know what? There are some so-called sciences which are completely unnecessary. Okay, one is anthropology.
What even is anthropology?
Yeah, anthropology is complete faltu science. There's nothing, no science. It was made up only to study these black fellows like zoo animals. Arey, dekho ye kala, see the way these fellows dance. See the way
so racist, yeah.
So anthropology is like that. Although now it is, people anthropology, linguistics also. Linguistics now, European linguistics, maybe they are studying their languages. Fine, but applying it to India, I think we need to reject it and look at it different way.
Yeah, we need to look at it differently. Yes.
We need to develop our own languages, have scholarship in individual Indian languages. That is important. Learn Sanskrit, by the way, not necessarily as a language of communication, but as a part of a scholarly endeavor to study Indian languages.
Right. Yeah. So today, the Aryan Invasion Theory, it's only, as of today, the people who are challenging the Aryan Invasion Theory are typically people from outside academia. It's typically scientists, etc., who are doing it. Why isn't academia doing anything about this? Shouldn't that come from academia to re-examine our preconceptions and all that?
Yeah. See, academia is controlled by the West, basically. And you have to see, now you're an academic, and you want your PhD or whatever it is, and you write your paper, you want your paper published. You're dependent on them.
Yes.
You can't write anything outside that. If you write anything outside, you're finished. So, now this is you need peer review. The peers are going to slap you. Your peers are going to slap you if you say something different. That is why it's coming from outside.
So shouldn't we have our own journals?
We should. Absolutely.
So what is stopping us from doing that? How hard is it to start a journal?
It's not hard.
You can mandate that every Indian PhD, whoever is aspiring for a PhD, researching, studying for a PhD, should publish in the Indian journals if you want to acquire the degree. Yeah,
I used to tell my colleagues about this in medicine. Why are you guys, see, the thing is, we had this impression that the Western, thing is very fair, and there's a very very popular, very famous journal called Gut for in surgery in medicine. And I put a paper, I wrote a paper that part of it was written by me and part of it by a white pathologist. And, it was sent for publication. One day the pathologist, I wrote 90% of the paper, everything was there. Then one day this pathologist's boss called up, "Oh, Andrew, my boy has written this paper." I told him, paper came in Gut, but the names were changed over. That guy's name came first. He has to make his career. I don't mind. My name is just there as an also ran. But this is there also this influence and all works in those papers. So we should have our own journals.
Yes.
We really should have our own journals. We need to have our own think tanks. We need to do that. We need to start something and get on with it. Yes.
The Chinese have ensured they have their own journals. People publish there. Now people from other countries are publishing in Chinese journals.
You need to have pride in yourself.
Yes.
You need to have pride in your own people. When you think that your people are jokers, see, if there is for no reason at all, I find some very senior people, Indians, professionals, even armed forces professionals, having only, shame about an Indian doing an Indian thing. Which shouldn't happen. We need to have pride. We have our own way of doing things. We do our things in our way. And we have to take pride in that and move that forward. Unless we do that, you're absolutely right. I agree with the journal. I had said this to my medical colleague. I said, put it in your journal. Are we going to read it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. How difficult is it to start a journal? It's nothing. Especially in this day and age.
Yes.
When you can put everything online. You don't need paper.
Online, yes.
You don't need paper.
Yes.
And in fact, Bharat Rakshak had started a think tank journal called Monitor or something. It did very well for some time. But then it just died out. There was no continuing editorship was not there.
Okay.
So it got quoted, got cited. Articles got cited here and there.
I see.
So it can be done. But you give me an idea. I've always had this idea that I should start something,
Please
related to military or aviation, not medicine. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I would like to start something,
Yeah, we need good quality research, even in the field of strategic affairs, military, defense, all that.
Yeah.
Indeed, yes. So you mentioned that you are working on a new book right now, right?
Yeah, that is, I'm currently, you know how I work on books. There's certain thoughts I have. I collect a lot of information. Sometimes I don't know which way it is heading. But currently, it looks like it's heading towards mental colonization, collecting data. And I feel this is something that needs to be come out and written, shown. Most people don't know how they are colonized. They don't realize that they're doing something that is related to being colonized. They're not doing any harm. They're not nasty people. They're just normal people. But the colonization has come down through education. So trying to parse that, explain it, and think, I'm trying to do that.
What's your process for writing a book? How long does it typically take you?
Each time it's taken 7 years.
7 years?
It's 5 to 7 years.
I see.
Yeah, it's never taken anything like that. But the Pakistan book came out first. Although I published it, I had put it online, a shorter version earlier than this one also. Aryan Invasion took... But see, I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly writing articles, either on the military or some quasi-medical related or social, psychological, that sort of thing. Constantly writing. And of course, for my videos, I'm writing short things which I dictate and I put it on my videos because, again, it's all about the military, whether it's some war or something. I did one I've just done one on the Kargil conflict, a summary, doing reasonably well. So,
yeah. And how long have you been, have you had the YouTube channel?
13 years.
13 years?
Long before monetization started.
I see. Must be one of the first YouTube channels in India, perhaps.
Yeah, probably one of the early ones, yeah.
What made you create a YouTube channel?
I wanted video. I wanted to put aircraft videos. I was so disappointed that in the 90s, when I got my first I got a 286, which was hopeless. Then I got a Pentium 100. And I was so disappointed that the Pentium 100 had no capability of doing anything with videos or graphics. So then I bought a separate graphics, video card. And that used to just capture 15 frames a second small video. And to render that video into a format, it would take 5 minutes for 5 seconds, sort of 1 minute per, that sort of thing. So I had short, small videos. So technology has enabled me over the years, to do that.
Right. The last question I will ask you is, how do people inculcate pride in themselves and the nation? I mean, we have all been mentally colonized, including myself, I'm sure. So how do we develop the pride?
That's a very good question. I think there are probably multiple ways. One is, educating them in what we have. What do we have? We have dirt, we have population, yes. But we also need to understand where we've been lied to. And there we've been exposed to a lot of lies. The Aryan Invasion and Dravidian is just one such lie. Another lie that is current is dietetics. Protein, that's all. There's a problem because Western dietetics studied malnutrition. And Western dietetics was built up on malnutrition. And they've figured out very well how to build yourself up. But they have no clue how to get the weight down. And the entire world is probably becoming fat partly because of that. Partly because of other reasons. So, here we are following that blindly and not understanding that the same thing. If you mix protein, fat, carbohydrate, vitamins and minerals, you don't get food. You're not going to get food. Food consists of that. This is the thing. So, this is the way Western science takes us through reductionism. But you can't get a whole through. You need to approach it in a completely different way. Ayurveda does that, in fact, in terms of diets. So we need to, the way to inculcate pride is to say that ancient knowledge is not useless. Remove the contempt. For instance, in medicine, there is contempt for Ayurveda, contempt for other things. There is contempt for the Indian. We have to remove that contempt and say it's wrong. I'm hoping that my book will create a little bit of awareness. It's not easy.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do you see India by 2050?
Great country. We'll be among the top countries. We'll have a big population. We'll still have problems. We will still probably not have a per capita income that leads the world. But But the problem is if India were to consume at the rate that India will not be able to consume at the rate that America does. Because if countries like India and China consume at that rate, there is nothing, the world cannot survive.
Yes.
We have to contract and we have to grow sustainably, which means that, filthy rich may not be the goal for everyone, but sustainable, happy, healthy lives is what we need. The way to do that, of course, is to remain peaceful and remain strong and make things at home and be proud in what we do at home. This is what I feel.
So you're optimistic about the future?
I am optimistic about the future. We've done all right. We're going to keep doing well.
Dr. Sastry, thank you so much for a fascinating conversation.
Thanks, a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So that was the conversation. Hope you liked it. If you enjoyed this, please share this on WhatsApp and other media. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.